Big 12 Today with Ari and James. Monday through Friday, 8A to 11A Eastern Time. Your home for all things Big 12.
And away we go on a Thursday. Happiness is a choice. Thank you for choosing us. Along with James Westling, I am Ari Temkin. So great to have you with us today and every day here in your home for the Big 12. Tune in Big 12 Studios to find out where you can stream us. Go to big12studios.com. Chris Level, our friend from the Texas Tech Red Raider Radio Network, joins us coming up to talk through the Brendan Sorsby saga. Plus, as we continue our series, breaking down the top five at each position heading into the 2026 college football season, we're breaking down the top five linebackers in the Big 12, which should be a fun list to get to. James, how are you? Good morning.
Fantastic. I would say, I don't know about you, but like putting together the list of linebackers, this is where I felt like the schools at the top of the league really stood out in terms of flexing their muscles, no pun intended. But some of the other positional breakdowns we've done so far has been a little bit scattered. When I looked at this list and all the returners coming back, it's a very strong position group, and it's strong for the schools that are expected to compete for a championship.
Yeah, well said. I completely agree with that. I had a lot of fun last night at the Half Associates Award Gala that I hosted, emceed. It was something kind of new and unique I've never done before, and I enjoyed it. It was fun. I think it was well received. Met a lot of fans of the show, so that was cool.
This show?
Yeah.
This one?
Apparently, like, this show goes out to a lot of people.
Okay.
I just thought it was you and I in a room talking for 3 hours.
I think you said the other day just me and you telling fart jokes for 3 hours, which
that's right.
was the best summary. Couldn't have said it better myself. So that's awesome, dude.
Yeah, it was fun. And, again, like, engineering is so foreign to me in my little, like, peon brain, And so just getting to meet so many of these engineers, many of them went to schools in the Big 12. I mean, Texas Tech. I was telling you about a guy I met that went to K-State. So it's really cool to see those Big 12 schools represented like that. There's other ones too, but we don't have to talk about them. So I'm talking to this guy. He says he's a biomechanical engineer. So he doesn't work with Half. He works for another company doing something completely different than what Half does. A biomechanical engineer. So when you hear that, what do you think?
No, I don't even know what that means.
Like, he starts explaining what he does to me, and I can't imagine what my face looked like. Because we were talking previously about football. He's a Penn State grad, and so I was like, yeah, that I can hang with. The I was like, can you break down those three words? It's 2 words.
From Matt Campbell to biochemical engineer. Nope.
Biomechanical.
Biomechanical.
Okay? So this guy was telling about the work that he does, and I've got to so he works for a company that is building out the infrastructure for what's called brain-computer interfaces, BCIs.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
Are you following me?
I'm intrigued. Brain-computer
interfaces. What he kept referring to as BCIs. I just kept nodding like, yeah, of course. Who doesn't have a BCI? Who can't think about BCIs all the time? And basically what these brain-computer interfaces are doing right now, it's basically what Neuralink is, what Elon Musk's company is. Yep. It's a separate company that does the same thing. But they've restored speech communication for patients with ALS and stroke by translating neural signals into text and synthetic voice. It's basically kind of like a smaller version of what Stephen Hawking had, right? So Hawking had an assisted device to help him talk. And so for patients that have ALS or stroke or can't talk, basically this is a brain implant that sends signals to the brain that then generates a voice based on what the brain is saying.
Mm-hmm. And when you said brain and the other pieces, I immediately thought of Elon Musk's Neuralink company that we've talked about on this show, and all the really, like, it's I know some people are scared of the future, but also this is a really exciting thing because it can directly impact a lot of people that are suffering, not just those individuals, but their families. And so it's really cool to hear because Elon Musk is such a prominent figure. We don't hear about all the other companies, which is like why I brought up the flying cars and the humanoid robots from that other company. Like, there are so many different ones out there all competing, but they're all competing for a really good cause. And this is a prime example of that. So I love it.
No, I mean, exactly. And that's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of just like modern engineering. Because, I mean, this guy was saying to me, he's like, yeah, I mean, you always tell people about that, and then they fire back with like brain control and these negative impacts of it. And it's like, yeah, I mean, with the way that technology is advancing, like the walls are caving in so many industries. Like there's bad actors in any industry, right? Like, I mean, this to me is on the more benign side as opposed to like genetic engineering and AI robots. Like those are the two that are going to kill us and wipe us off the face of the earth more so than this would.
Totally.
But I mean, the positive side here again is like just the insane work that like modern engineers are doing right now in so many different ways of things that like I can't even, like my small peon brain can't even conceive of this stuff.
Well, and like I've seen some clips that have gone viral of Neuralink or other companies that are actually implementing this with real human subjects, and it's working, and it's remarkable, and probably not getting the attention that it deserves because this is a major advancement in modern health and a really good thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, and what he was telling me, this guy was telling me, was like this year, this company is going to plant its first implant into a human. And I mean, yeah, it's just remarkable stuff. You think about a future where you can basically cure blindness, you can cure deafness. I mean, there's lots of ways in which this technology can be used. And again, it's just one small subsect of what incredible engineers are doing right now.
Now, were you talking to this guy before you took the stage or after?
So there was like a social gathering after the gala.
This is post-event.
Yes.
Because if it was pre-event, man, that could really mess with your psyche. Like, these guys are genius level, and I'm up here on this stage floating around.
Oh, well, I mean, I knew that even before talking to that guy.
Okay.
Yeah, I know,
That just ramps it up to another level.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
These bros are smart.
Yeah,
These are some smart bros.
They're building roads and bridges and wastewater plants and water plants. I mean, you've got a guy that's, like, spent years going to Bolivia as like a volunteer to provide clean drinking water to people in Bolivia. Like, this is like, talking about reduction to what we do.
Right?
It's like in his free time, spending time in Bolivia to bring clean water to Bolivians.
And this is Richardson, so like this is our neighborhood. So to think that we're surrounded by people doing some incredible things, which is always just fascinating, the dynamics of a neighborhood. Like, you can know your neighbor, but you really know them, like what they do, what's their impact on society. So that's really cool, man. I love it.
Do you really know your neighbors?
A little bit.
By the way, impact
I was very offended by the fact that you clearly didn't believe me that I'd ever emceed anything in my life on yesterday's program. So it was 2 years ago. I emceed the Fellowship of Christian Athletes fundraising event.
Oh, nice.
It was put on by former Kansas State safety. Remember Ty Zimmerman?
Yeah.
All Big 12.
No, I don't.
He was a dude. You don't remember Ty Zimmerman,
I do.
number 12, K-State? Like, he was part of the Colin Klein teams and that 2012 team that was undefeated until Ty Zimmerman got hurt right before the Baylor game, and they had to start a true freshman in his spot at safety, and K-State got crushed, and the season kind of fell apart from there. But, yeah, Ty Zimmerman's doing a lot of stuff in, like, the entire central region for FCA, and I emceed their event.
Ty Zimmerman, FCA's area director, serving North Central Kansas.
But he was, like, getting down into Oklahoma and Texas, I think, in terms of some of his efforts. But, yeah, that's his pocket.
So why weren't you asked back?
Well, because I moved.
Oh.
I left the state.
Okay. Well, I mean, you could still drive back and
I
host
could.
the event.
I could. But, yeah, you know, logistics get a little trickier when you're about 8 hours away.
Yeah, that's true. That's James Westling. I'm Ari Tepkin. Just the moral of the story here. Engineers are amazing. They do amazing things. Big 12 today, Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. Just give your resident engineer a big hug and tell him thank you for being smart and applying that in a very positive way.
Was it intimidating?
No.
In any capacity?
Because the thing that I'm good at, most engineers are not good at that.
Dude, that's a great...
So I was kind of like showing off, you know? Like, look at me be comfortable talking in front of a microphone in front of people. Look at me.
You have an IQ 4 times my number, but I can speak into a microphone.
I can barely add or subtract, but here I am.
Did you dance?
Not as much as I would have hoped.
Okay. I knew it.
But they did have Clover the violinist and Jermaine Marshall the pianist, which was amazing. Like, so I was doing some work pre-show, and the pianist shows up, and he just, like, walks up and just starts playing. And, like, I mean, it was just like, wow, is that Beethoven or what? Like, just, it was incredible.
And how did the pre-show mic check go? I know that was a big concern. You didn't have to do any of this. It just worked. You pop that baby on.
It's
You
a
were good
lav
to go.
mic, okay? We don't have to worry about that.
Okay. It was a what?
Lav mic? Is that what they call it?
Got it.
It's like you wear it on your lapel.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, I got you.
Work at TV. How do you know what a lav mic is?
No, I got you. I thought that was a brand or a company name
Got it.
for a moment.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know.
With you. Well, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah. And actually, the violinist had a 3D printed violin.
What?
Yeah. It was like a white violin that was 3D printed that had lights on it that glowed.
Did you touch it?
Yeah.
What did it feel like?
A violin.
Like an actual violin?
Yeah.
I don't understand. 3D printing is a whole concept or world that I don't understand. Like when 3D printing became a thing and things are 3D printed, I thought it had to be out of a certain material and feel a certain way, and everything would just feel super cheap and flimsy, but apparently not.
No, that's not the case. Yeah. It maybe looks all the same, but I don't think all the materials are the same. That's for sure. All right, huge day yesterday as it was made official with the Big 12 and Redbird Capital. This was a story that had been ongoing, and when you really look at this deal with the Big 12, they had been working with Redbird Capital on business deals already. Redbird was instrumental in helping the PayPal Venmo deal come through with the Big 12, the Players Era deal with the Big 12. So there had been ongoing a working relationship between Redbird Capital and the Big 12, but now it's official in terms of a private capital infusion of cash. So it's a three-part with no ownership transfer. The deal delivers at least $12.5 million to the league office for commercial development, offers each school an opt-in credit line of up to $30 million, and creates a strategic business partnership aimed at positioning the conference for its next meteorite cycle. I would say the first two are the most significant. The $30 million line of credit is, just based on the 10% interest rate, I would imagine not a great deal for many schools that they will not take up. I think some of the estimations I saw was between 2 and 6 of the 16 Big 12 schools would take up Redbird on that cash infusion. But beyond that, the infusion in the front office of the Big 12 and then the media rights piece are two huge parts of this.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, the panic button is being pounded by a lot of fans and fan bases, and I think it's a little unnecessary. Like, let's see how this thing plays out. Number one, to your point, none of the 16 schools are required to take the money. I don't see Redbird Capital coming in and slashing Olympic sports, which is some of the narrative that's out there.
Well, that's already happening.
It's happening at
without any capital investment. I would say that if you're up against it and you really want to save Olympic sports, that the $30 million cash infusion may be a way to do it.
Right, exactly. So, the conference wasn't going to make this deal without still holding the majority of the power, right? And when you look at, I think Matt Brown, who does a fantastic job of kind of following and researching and reporting on the financial sector of college sports, says
Matt Brown of Extra Points.
He thinks about 3 or 4 schools maybe opt into this. So that's a very small chunk of the conference. But, the history that the league has with Redbird Capital, and then also, like, in terms of the schools have 1 year to make a decision if they're going to take that one-time capital infusion. And then the repayment, mechanism is really interesting to me. So the conference withholds a portion of that school's annual distribution. The expectation is that those withholdings would theoretically be covered by that extra revenue that Redbird helps to generate at the conference level. Because it's not just this giant cash infusion without them doing some of the work behind it and helping to grow the conference at a commercial level. So if Redbird does its job on the commercial side, like some of these schools opting in, may never actually have to feel that repayment bite of 10% because the league has grown that much between now and then. So I think it's really exciting and really curious just to kind of see how this plays out and how it positions some of the schools in this league.
Yeah, I think to your point, maybe there's some sirens going off just based on, the idea of, getting in bed here with, in this type of capital infusion. And like I think when you look at the fine print of this deal, it's all positive. Like there's nothing negative about this deal. And maybe the biggest part about it is that Redbird owns a significant portion of Paramount, 22%, in fact. And so as Paramount, which obviously owns CBS, is set to acquire also Warner Brothers Discovery, which includes TNT. I mean, that's the biggest part of this whole deal here is how big of a player will Paramount Skydance be in the next negotiations for TV rights, and Redbird owns 22% of them. So it's very much a business partnership that leverages and looks to the future in terms of TV rights. It's a huge deal for the Big 12 in that regard. I think Redbird is betting on the continued future growth of college football. They're betting on Brett Yormark, and they, in many ways, have set the deck because they own a large percentage of one of the biggest media companies that will be a buyer in the next media rights.
Absolutely. I think that the timing of this is paramount when the Big 12's ESPN and Fox deal expires in 2031. We're 5 years away. Like 5 years looking back is 2021. Like it's going to be here in the blink of an eye. And on top of the Paramount 22% ownership, that's CBS. They're in talks to acquire Turner Sports and TNT. It's one more layer for the Big 12, which already has 5 media partners when it comes to men's basketball. And Redbird's portfolio, like they know sports, right? AC Milan, Fenway Sports Group, which is part of the Boston Red Sox, LeBron James's Spring Hill Company, and then the regional broadcasting Yes Network, which is very popular up in the Northeast, plus the 22% of Paramount. Like they are very invested on the media side, on the commercial side, on the sports side. So in terms of, like, if you're going to partner with a group, I can't imagine a group better than this.
Yeah, no, agreed. This is not, a private equity deal that should send off signals that says this is bad. This is a great private equity deal. They're already in sports. They're doing a ton of sports. There's a lot of, cohesiveness and carryover with what they're doing, and it's already benefited the Big 12 and will continue to do so. It's a great deal. All right, we'll talk about Brendan Sorsby coming up with Chris Level because there continues to be new developments that come out on that. Plus, James, you found something really interesting about how rev share agreements can now help schools when it comes to the transfer portal. That's coming up next. This is Big 12 Today with James Westling. I'm Ari Tepkin. We are presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios.
Jackson's in trouble now. David Bailey, he is a sack machine. Third and 8. George Tyson.
He found Tyson.
Levitt throws a laser. It's caught. It's Tyson. It's touchdown.
Still play fake. Going from the goal. Tyson the target. Contested kicks for 2. The best in college football. Gets the night started in Tempe.
Big 12 Radio, Big 12 Today, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios, along with James Westling. I am Ari Temkin. Chris Level of the Texas Tech Red Raider Radio Network joins us coming up in about 15 minutes. We're going to continue to see new stories on Brendan Sorsby start to trickle out about some of the specifics. What's the latest on that, James?
I mean, the latest to me is that Brendan Sorsby placed over 10,000 bets.
It's a lot of $2.50 bets on balls and strikes, is it not?
10,000 bets.
I would like to know what the average sort of lifespan bet volume is for people on apps.
Okay. I could probably get some research on that. I know that number is very high. Okay. He
It seems like a lot.
It does. And, I mean, there were periods in which, and they're still kind of combing through his phone and these online sports betting accounts. They have to talk to the companies. They have to get all that data. The NCAA and the Big 12 uses an app that notifies them when a student athlete signs up for an online sports betting account. So how this didn't get flagged earlier blows my mind.
Right.
And makes me wonder, how many people actually knew what was happening behind the scenes. And
I guess if you've signed up for an account before, maybe that's how you circumvent that situation.
before this was implemented, that could be.
I mean, he was at Indiana.
And then also, like, I thought the context that there are some sports that student athletes can legally bet on. And when it comes to the NCAA guidelines, NASCAR, horse racing, UFC fights, like, those are okay. It's the other sports that the NCAA has schools in that are not okay. But, I mean, the kid averaged over 20 bets a day at one point for an extended period of time. 10,000 bets is a lot of bets. And even if you're betting $1 or $2.50, that's over $25,000 on the $2.50 side that you've wagered. And it was a lot more than that. Like, I think the dollar amount is quite high compared to nobody really knows. It's all speculation. And so I don't want to do that. But we do know that, like, 10,000 bets, I mean, you do the math, that's some serious betting weight.
Yeah, I mean, it was, but Pete Thamel that basically indicated that it was less than $1 million. And we were like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd hope so.
7 figures, like casually dropping that it's less than 7 figures. Are there decimal points in there anywhere is what I thought. Like 7 figures is $1 million. Like it has raised a lot of questions with me and what actually took place. And I'm trying really hard not to speculate. But Cincinnati had back-to-back years where they didn't play very well down the stretch. And Brendan Sorsby in particular had some really bad games. And then the other thing, I had a Cincinnati game last year for ESPN, met with Sorsby, met with his center, Gavin Gerhardt, met with several of his really close teammates. And underneath all that, they noted that he kind of struggles with his confidence at times, that 2 years ago his apartment was burglarized and he had to actually move like mid-season. And they were kind of identifying that as a major turning point in their season because they were 5-2 at that point in time. They had to relocate him. And sitting here in the back of my mind, I'm like, was that related to this? Maybe it wasn't, okay? I'm not saying it definitely was. But it does just raise some additional questions that I think will be answered over time.
Yeah. We'll see if there's a potential path towards him playing next year, which at this point seems extremely unlikely, but Chris Level of the Texas Tech Red Raider Radio Network, Locked On Red Raiders, will join us coming up in about 10 minutes to shift through that. James, you found a really interesting tweet from Mitt Winter Sports Law. He does a great job in covering college athletics from a legalese perspective. Basically, in a very under-discussed story right now in terms of what the NCAA is trying to do to try to get some semblance of control over the transfer portal. So, the D1 competition committee met on and ruled on ghost transfers, implementing, penalties for players that do not enter the portal, that enroll in a school and kind of backdoor their way into another school, a la the former BYU quarterback
Jake Retzloff.
Thank you, for Tulane last year. It's basically the Jake Retzloff rule. Well, now, as Winter discussed, basically the NCAA is advising schools and conferences in their rev share agreements to stipulate that they will not enter their name into the portal if they have a rev share agreement. And if that's the case, then because it basically supersedes the rule that says that they have to enter their name into the portal once they say they want to within 2 days. So basically, what this new rule is saying is if you put in your rev share agreement that you will not enter them in the portal under the timeline of the rev share agreement, then you don't have to do that. And that's basically exactly what happened with the University of Washington quarterback Damon Williams. Remember, we talked about this when he tried to, he signed a huge deal and then wanted to enter the portal. Well, Washington just never put him in the portal because of the verbiage in the contract.
Yeah, this is a big deal and very much has flown under the radar. Schools now being able to use these rev share contracts. Did you say enforceable contract? It's a foreign language around here. So essentially, it's a legal gate keeping players out of the portal entirely. If it's written into the language of your contract, which, again, these players, these student athletes don't have to have certified agents. It can be anybody. Are they actually reading over the entirety of the contract before they sign it? Because
Reading contracts.
But
it's for losers.
This is an NCAA bylaw that is being proposed for 2026 to 2036. Very much flew under the radar. And it's already been tested, and it got really ugly. The Damon Williams case is the prime example. The Washington quarterback signed an NIL contract. Okay, they call it rev share deal, but it's an NIL contract worth more than $4 million to be the quarterback at Washington. Then he tried to transfer days later. Washington said, no, it's written in your contract that you can't enter the portal until you play out this contract. Washington won that case. Like, Washington, he's back for the Huskies in 2026. So,
and it's up to the school to enter the name into the portal, and the school was basically like, no. And if you do, we're going to sue you for the terms of this contract.
That's exactly it. So are these contracts that we're seeing more and more programs sign, not just 1-year contracts, but 2-year deals, some even 3-year deals? Are we at a point with this NCAA bylaw that this holds up now in court and that these contracts are enforceable? And to me, I call it portal power because it does shift the power back to the schools and these student athletes. It's going to be more important than ever that they understand what they are getting into and that they understand that, hey, you're here for 2 years. Even if you sit the bench your first year, even if you don't get the playing time that you were promised your first year, you're getting the money, you're going to be here for that next year, and you're going to be forced to develop.
When you wonder, too, if a part of this is if you have an agent or a lawyer that's looking over this contract, what if they say, like, we're not going to sign this based on these terms? You have to take that part out. Now, the school could say, absolutely not, go kick rocks. Or they might take it out, which then puts the power back into the hands of the player. Mm-hmm. I think this makes them a little bit more conscientious of looking for that stuff. And, in some cases, you could probably negotiate it out, not in all cases. But in some cases, certainly based on the talent level and what they might be getting offered from other schools. But at least gives them some semblance of recourse. Now, with that being said, Damon Williams and his lawyers could have sued and said, no, you have to put our name in the portal. Though we believe we live in a world where contracts are enforceable, these contracts seem to be less and less enforceable. Now, they didn't do that because it's a lot of money we're talking about here. He signed a 2-year deal at $7.5 million or something like that?
Yeah, his was $4 million. The Duke quarterback, Darian Mensah,
that's right.
His was a 2-year deal worth $7.5 million.
But he's not at Duke anymore.
No. He said F you, and he went to Miami. So he signed.
So 2 examples. One guy stays, the other guy's like, I'm gone.
And Duke sought a restraining order to block him from signing elsewhere, and that case is still ongoing. Like, he's planning to be the Miami quarterback next season. He's at Miami, but there's still a lot that can play out there.
And that's the ultimate issue here with trying to enforce these contracts through, the judicial system. It takes a lot of time. Mm-hmm. And by the time this thing gets resolved, Darian Mensah could have very well played a full season at Miami.
Exactly.
So it doesn't even matter.
And the reason why it's so complicated and why it takes so much time is because there's a legal gray area with these college athletes. They're not classified as employees, as we've covered time and time again on this program. So these rev sharing deals, they're licensing agreements. And sure, they usually include a buyout requiring the athlete to pay damages for an early exit, like we saw with Brendan Sorsby transferring from Cincinnati to Texas Tech, and why Cincinnati is suing him for the $1 million that they believe he owes them. But the enforcement is super murky. You know, the courts are being asked to decide what's actually binding in these contracts. So there's still a lot to unpack in terms of what this might look like. But it is being highlighted by the NCAA in this new proposal, part of the bylaws that would expand over the next decade starting now in 2026. Like, there's a lot that the NCAA is attempting to do. I give them a ton of credit for that. Charlie Baker, the NCAA president, when you look at the eligibility stuff, when you look at this, when you look at the gambling stuff, like, the NCAA is trying their best to have very black and white rules.
And look, I mean, this is part of the process, you know, as this market emerged out of thin air. And I keep trying to tell people that, like, yeah, it's messy and ugly, and like I'm sure in some cases you hear some of these stories and you just want to throw your hands up and be like, just give up, like, just give in. But like, as a brand new market materialized out of thin air, which is what NIL was, it was going to take time for these things to play out in court, to play out in real life. And again, it's not easy. We don't seem to be on a path that's clearer or cleaner, but there's been a lot of legal precedent that's being set across the way. And, you know, again, ultimately, like, it's going to need to be collectively bargained, all of this stuff, in order for it to be fully enforceable. But right now, just going through the process of all, like, these things take a lot of time.
Yeah, and we highlighted the two most prominent high-profile cases, right, with Damon Williams and Darian Mensah. But where this really, I think, moves the needle are those guys that aren't making $4 or $5 million. Maybe they're making six figures. They're making a half or a quarter or less than $100K, and they sign 2 or 3 year deals to be at a particular school. They don't have the financial resources to hire a legal team and go after that school and try and sue them, and the school just says, nope, you're not in the portal. You're here. You're going to develop. So it's the other 90% of athletes that really this has a major impact, versus the Tyron Stokes and the other high-profile athletes, the Sorsbys of the world, because, yeah, they're going to have the people around them and the legal team to either get that clause thrown out or fight it when it ultimately comes to that point.
Yeah, it's Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. We are presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. More to come on this, including some really interesting stuff and numbers in terms of early entrance into the NBA draft. Just the numbers are staggering. And then not only the numbers in terms of lack of early entries into the NBA draft, but how many dollars are out there for NIL for college basketball and the growth of that. Really interesting stuff. On the way next, though, Chris Level, Texas Tech Red Raider Radio Network, Lockdown Red Raiders, joins us to talk about the latest around Brendan Sorsby, and is there a path towards eligibility for him? That's next. This is Big 12 Today with James Wesley, Amari Tepkin. We're presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios.
Arizona getting exotic. It's lofted by Sorsby, and it's picked off. Dalton Johnson with the second takeaway for Arizona. That was going to remain on the sideline today. That one looks laminated. Look out here. Howland flung for a huge loss. We know he can spin it, but so do Dalton Johnson and the Cats.
Tonight getting his first career carries. Ball is loose. A lucky bounce for Bachmeier. Can he make the most of it? And that ball down the field is taken away for the second time tonight.
Gotta be a good punt. Salgado Medina does get it away. And this will be touched by Kansas State.
And it goes right through his hands. And Johnson on the recovery. Johnny on the spot.
Lyman being able to swing it that well. Look at this second level blitz, and the Cats get hands on it again. Dalton Johnson part of that wave. Back-to-back pass breakups.
Out of the shotgun. Field break pressure. It's picked off. And it will be a pick 6 for Dalton Johnson. Wow, they got him at the 5. That was great defensive work. Wow, I thought no way they're going to catch up.
3rd and 22. Couple guys drop out. Sorsby in trouble. Gets it away complete. And he's wrestled out of bounds. Manny Covey.
Big 12 Radio, Big 12 Today, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. Let's talk now with our good friend Chris Level from the Texas Tech Red Raider Radio Network and Locked On Red Raiders. Chris, how are you?
I'm doing good, gentlemen. I'm losing my voice, and it's been an interesting filled week, or drama filled week. So after such a good weekend within the NFL draft.
Yeah, wild. Tech has 9 players drafted, a school record, and you think coming off that, being the favorites of the Big 12, like what a spot for the program, and then this bomb drops. What's the latest? What do you know? What are you hearing? Just kind of give us the latest updates on this.
Well, I mean, I know. I think the better way to phrase it is, I mean, we all kind of know some of the same stuff. I think that there's some questions we can pose aloud here. What kind of timetable are we looking at? What, as far as they're going to have an investigation, because he's basically admitted to some of this. I don't know why there needs to be an investigation or anything. They may want to talk to him. Now that may come into play about some of the other stuff I would bring up, but if he's in this facility for the next 27 days, can that happen, or do you have to wait till that's over with? When will he be declared ineligible? Which as I understand it, I think Texas Tech will. That's a kind of a, the way that the structure works. I guess they have to declare him ineligible. Then you have to ask the NCAA, is there a path to reinstatement? If so, what is it? If not, why? And then you get ready to roll up your sleeves and go the legal route, I guess. But then the other questions that I think that, and I texted you some of this the other day, Ari, but like, why is this information coming? These are things that I'm gonna guess, because I think you've asked this, like what is the case that Texas Tech would have, or Brennan Sorsby would have, or right. Is there a path to reinstatement? But I wonder if the legal folks, whether that's on Texas Tech's behalf or because they've I think secured the services of some of the best in the space as far as going against the NCAA or rules or whatever. But how old was he when these bets were supposedly made at Indiana? Because the timetable doesn't add up. And if it wasn't him, he was doing it under who? And who is this person? And how did somebody find out? Or 4 years later, the timing is very interesting, right? And then I think that one of the main things is all of this data that is showing this. I mean, I think it's going to be asked, how did the NCAA or whomever acquire this data, and did they do it legally? Is it permissible? I mean, I don't, I'm not a legal guy. I don't know. These are just things that I think will be potentially brought up and part of the dynamic here, but I just don't know. I don't, because I'm like you guys, it doesn't look great at all. I think that if you're Texas Tech, you have to prepare for what you've got at quarterback, because I think in a best of cases, he's going to miss some time. That's in a best case scenario. But if there's things but if this does go the legal route, guys, that's what I'm curious about, because does Brennan Sorsby want that? And what else are they going to find? Does Cincinnati want that? Because now we're going to know, okay, you knew, and this is exactly who knew, and I mean, they're going to argue all these things. And then the NCAA, like, okay, how did you get all this? And did you have a warrant, or is this permissible in court in the argument? Or I don't know. That these are in Indiana. So yeah. Popcorn is ready, I guess. I'm curious as anybody, but I think everybody would love a quick solution or resolution, but I just don't know if you're going to get it. So, this is not what I thought I was waking up to on a Monday morning for sure. But here we are.
Yeah, all those are really good points, Chris, and then just the timeline, like how long all that takes. I'm curious. Yeah. You're in Lubbock. You're as tied to the program as anybody. What's the feel like out there in terms of, does it just feel like Texas Tech just got hit by a bomb, or is it kind of like, okay, we're moving on, next man up, let's get Will Hammond ready? I would just love to get a sense for just what the vibe is out there in Lubbock.
Well, I think like I can give you a couple things. I mean, the pulse of the fan base is that there's a lot of folks that are, that maybe feel like, oh, well, somebody's out to get you, or they held on to this and they played their cards at just the right time, and whether that's Cincinnati or some unknown, we don't know. But there's some that I think are very frustrated with Brennan Sorsby, that he came here knowing that he had done all this and knew that it was against the rules. And so that's a fair question to ask aloud too, like internally, like team-wise. I mean, like what's the thought there? If you're like, I use Terrence Carter, for example. Terrence Carter could have gone to the NFL draft. He decided to come back. He's got a lot at stake. This is an NFL tight end. Like, does he, I mean, if there was a spring portal, everybody's talking about who could you have gotten a quarterback? But the other question is how many guys would you have potentially lost? Like, would guys go, man, I didn't sign up for this?
Yeah, that's a great point.
Or I'm posing this aloud. So I think there's probably some just frustration or confusion, or like, okay, well, what's about to happen? So I think everybody's still somewhat processing, but I do know this: Joey will never waver, and Joey will. I mean, his wife Debbie wears a hat to games all the time, and it says "Run the damn ball" on it. So you were gonna do that anyway, and you may do that even more so now, and you're equipped to do it. You just may not have the quarterback be a part of said running game. So I just don't know where we go from here, but I think that the emotions and the feeling are kind of all over the place at this point, guys.
Yeah, no kidding. Let's talk about Will Hammond for a second. We've seen some good from Will Hammond. We've seen some bad. Do you attribute Texas Tech's aggression in the portal at quarterback to Will Hammond's injury, or maybe some questions about his play?
Oh, it's 1,000% his injury. They would have not even talked to a quarterback in the portal had he not gotten hurt on a fluke.
Wow.
Just a fluke play. He's the future of this program. He's going to be a multi-year starter here. I will say, I've read, like you guys have, hey, he's ahead of schedule. He's on track. He could be. I mean, guys, I'd be shocked if you saw him in September at all. I'm not so sure that it wouldn't be mid-October. Now, I don't know what you're getting from him when he does come back.
Right.
Because what makes him so good is his ability to run and scramble and extend plays, and all that. You guys saw that. So I don't know what to think there, but I just sometimes the ACLs, it's like you'll talk to somebody, man, it's like a 7 or 8 month deal, and other people tell you, man, it's a 12-month deal, and you're not the same until the year after. I mean, it's all over the map, and each situation is different. But I just don't think you would be counting on Will Hammond early on in the year. But I think that we all knew he was going to be an option, a quarter or halfway into the season, even if Sorsby was here or not. And like he was going to be your backup or an option and all those things. Then you have to decide, how many games do you want to play him? Do you want to jeopardize a red shirt if you were going that route? I mean, there was all that dynamic too. So, but he's going to be a multi-year starter here. Yeah, that would be my heavy assumption.
Okay, Chris, so let's unpack how Texas Tech feels about Will Hammond. You said that if he doesn't get hurt, they don't bring in a portal quarterback like he's their guy for this season. So let's say he is healthy by week 5 or week 6 or week 8. It's a long football season. Like, do you still feel like Texas Tech can still accomplish all their goals with him at quarterback?
I think they can accomplish a lot of their goals with Kirk Francis as their quarterback. Mm-hmm. I think they are going to be. I mean, we talked about this with you guys last week, but I mean, there's some mock drafts that are out there. Those don't mean anything, but it's a starting point. And like you had 3 different defensive players mocked as first-round draft picks: Bryce Pollock, A.J. Holmes, and Mateen Igborogba. I mean, so you're loaded on defense again. I don't know if you'll have as dynamic of a pass rush like you did with David Bailey, but you may be better equipped to stop the run. And then I just think that Joey wants to run the ball. I think that they will be in a position to really lean on teams. And I would have said this before, and I'm saying it now, but I don't think much changes that. There's just not many teams, I don't think, in the Big 12. And I know that you guys dropped the Red Raiders down in your power rankings yesterday and all that stuff, and that's fair. But because at some point you do have to have, quarterback that can make a plays, and there's a 3rd and 8 you're going to have to convert. What ultimately concerns me, like if you're asking like what does this do, you can accomplish your goals in the league. What you're not going to be able to do though without Will Hammond and a healthy Will Hammond, if Sorsby is out, is do much. In the Big 12 title game, or do much in the playoff and all. That's where I think your ceiling is becomes lower. But I don't know what it says about the league, but we'll all find out together. But I think you'll be able to be just fine in the Big 12 conference just because of the way you're built. And it may not look as pretty, it may not be easy, it may be ugly. You may have to grind, but you're in some places much deeper than you were last year, But you're going to be missing a high-end quarterback potentially, so we'll just see. But maybe you won't. I don't know. I just don't know if I know what the way this thing's going to turn out.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Chris. I think it's a great point. Like, they should still win the Big 12. It's the ceiling for which they can get deep into the playoff. Yeah. That's a question mark, and a big reason they brought in Sorsby. They needed
100%
to be more effective at that position in those games, and maybe Will Howard takes a huge step. I've got to do like a Will Howard, Will Hammond jar here.
Well, you know what'll help you is everybody has been calling him Will Hammond. he is him, right? So Will Hammond, if that'll help you.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's amazing. Right. Who else? Like, let's just put this to the side for a second. In Texas Tech football, like we know some of the guys from last year, but who are some of the guys you're most excited about? We highlighted Adam Trick and Trey White yesterday. Like, who are some of the guys you're really excited about?
The one guy that this is I've talked to you guys about him before, but we haven't seen him play yet for Texas Tech. But he's been on campus for a year and a half, and that's Quentin Joyner. I just think he's a large unknown and I think he's. Again, he would have started at running back last year, and yet you had a guy that went for 1,100 and a guy that went for 900, and they're both back, and then you add Joyner to him. That's what I'm saying. I just think that Garrett McGuire, Joey's son, is the running backs coach, and he's got 3, I think, really, really good running backs, and they can use them in a variety of ways. But Quentin Joyner would be really maybe tops on the list, and so. He's coming back from the injury too. Now his happened 2 or 3 months before. Like Will Hammond, see, I just did it. I just screwed myself up. Will Hammond's injury was, but he's one. I think that there's another player on defense that I think is a fascinating one, and he came from the University of Houston, Corey Platt. And Corey Platt played and started for a variety of games for that Houston defense a year ago. And he got into the portal. He played for Shieldwood at Tulane and for Shieldwood at Houston. This is an X factor player. Like, he's a very experienced player. I think you can put his hand on the ground. You can stand him up. He can play, some hybrid stuff. You can even drop him back in coverage. And anyway, he's just kind of a fun bell and whistle that I think you can use at your disposal, and Shield loves him. And so those are kind of a couple of under-the-radar guys, but, they've got 6 D tackles. I don't know exactly yet who the third D end is, if something were to happen to White or Trick, but and then, Romaine is the other one. It's like, how much fun is that guy going to be?
Yeah, I can tell you, he's a baller. He's a baller. Yeah. Sad to see him go from Kansas State. Speaking of linebackers, want to ask you about Jacob Rodriguez teaming up with another former Red Raider, like the Miami Red Raiders at linebacker. They've got a ton of history there. Feels like a great fit. What do you think?
Yeah, what was interesting about that is because I think there was a lot of chatter that the Dolphins may be looking at trading Jordan Brooks, maybe even to the Cowboys. There was some of that chatter that for one of those, but Dallas ends up going with a TCU product during the draft instead. But I never thought that you'd pair up Jordan Brooks and Jacob Rodriguez. But that's awesome. I mean, they run a lot of 4-2-5 stuff there, so that could be the two primary. I mean, Jordan Brooks is one of the best players that's ever come out of Texas Tech that gets talked about the least. I mean, he was a first-round draft pick. The guy was an All-Pro last year. He can just run. He's still in his 20s. But I mean, what a great way to be welcomed into a professional organization by having somebody that played at your alma mater that is really good at the position as well. But yeah, Jacob just lands in a good spot, and it's not lost on me that Jacob ended his career in college on the same field that he'll start his NFL career on at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami.
Wow, yeah.
Great call. Chris Level, Texas Tech Red Raider Radio Network, Locked On Red Raiders. You're the best, buddy. Appreciate you. Take care.
Thanks, Chris.
Hey, appreciate you guys. Sorry for the voice. Yeah, y'all keep hope alive. We'll talk next time.
Keep hope alive, brother.
All right, you got it.
Chris Level joining us here. Big 12 today, Big 12 Radio. A lot to unpack from that conversation. We'll get into that. Plus, we're ranking linebackers, top 5 linebackers in our series breaking down the top 5 players at each position. Well, we have a Red Raider linebacker on our list. Spoiler alert, yes. Big 12 today, Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios.
Robertson. Uh-oh. That's picked off. Keith Abney with the pilfer.
West Virginia down 2 scores. They get a reprieve. Jacob Barrick fumbles. And able to get it back. So on back-to-back plays as Keith Abney jars this one loose.
From the 24. Blitz coming. Pennington steps up. And he goes down. Keith Abney the second. The corner blitz for the Sun Devils.
So far, ASU has not surrendered a gain of more than 10 yards. Here's one that could happen in a hurry. Knocked out. A fumble recovered by Miles Rouser. Timeouts left for Rich Rodriguez. This is a must-have. 4th down and 4. And ASU takes it away. Keith Abney calls game.
Beautifully. Abney absolutely all over Cameron like a cheap suit.
He needs 4. Handles a high snap. Lets it go. Right pylon. It is. Incomplete. Chris Dawn the target and a matchup of ones. Keith Abney wins this round.
Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. We are presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios.
Along with James Wesley, I'm Ari Tepke. Great to have you with us today and every day here on your home for the Big 12. Tune in Big 12 Studios. We have had a lot of off-season football series because there is no off-season. The off-season never sleeps, James. No rest for the off-season. And today, we continue our series breaking down the top 5 players at each position across the Big 12 and how we see it. We had defensive linemen, defensive ends, and now we're on linebackers. So, James, take it away.
At number 5, we are power ranking.
We're not power ranking.
I guess it wouldn't be power ranking.
It's not that powerful.
Placing our top 5 linebackers
Correct.
in order.
Important distinction there.
Number 5 for me is where I have Cade Ulave from BYU. New name, fresh face for the Big 12. Transfer from Cal, so played high school in South Jordan, Utah, coming back home. He was the the Pac-12 Defensive Freshman of the Year as a true freshman in 2023 and had a massive year last year. 100 tackles as a junior, 12 TFLs, first team all ACC, almost 250 career tackles at Cal. He's also a tremendous pass rusher. He's great in coverage. He's got Jacob Rodriguez instincts, but he gets after the quarterback. He only had 44 pass rushing snaps last year. 20 of those resulted in pressures, a 45% rate that would have ranked first on BYU's entire defense this past season. So this is a massive piece that BYU has added, and I've got Cade Ulave at number 5.
Number 5 for me is Ben Roberts, the linebacker from Texas Tech. And, maybe this is going to be viewed as being a little bit too low for a guy that is coming off a Big 12 championship most outstanding player. And he was unbelievable in that game with multiple interceptions. I mean, he was all over the place. But a guy that, 74 tackles last year, 3 tackles for loss, 6 pass breakups, 3 interceptions, was tied for the most interceptions among all linebackers in 2025 with 4. 43.8 passer rating allowed from a linebacker is incredible. And a guy that is finally kind of stepping out of the Jacob Rodriguez's shadow here. And maybe that's why I didn't have him higher, because it feels like he was impacted positively by Rodriguez. So let's see if he can fly on his own. I'm not saying that he can't, but maybe that's why I kind of thought I didn't have him higher. But, he had about as good of a Big 12 championship game as you could possibly have. He was all over the place. And this is a guy that could end up the best linebacker in the Big 12, and another guy that hears his name called in the 2027 NFL draft for the Texas Tech Red Raiders.
Yeah, definitely. He's a future pro. Number 4 for me is Tay Brown from Arizona. 6'2 senior, 231 pounds. He played outside linebacker and tight end in high school. He chose Arizona over Kansas State, San Diego State, Air Force, Idaho State. He was very underrated when it comes to his recruiting. Now he's the returning leader in tackles among all Big 12 linebackers. Last year as a junior, he had 93 stops. That was 11th in the Big 12. He was third team all-conference. He has started 24 consecutive games dating back to the last 2 seasons. Arizona just lost some key pieces around him, especially when you look at their safety and cornerback, their defensive backfield. But he's going to be the centerpiece of Arizona's defense. Tay Brown, jersey number 6 in the middle. He's a headhunter.
Number 4 for me, this is where I have Cade Ulave, the BYU linebacker, the number 1 transfer portal linebacker in the 2026 class. Started 11 of 12 games at Cal in 2025. First team all ACC. Finished with 100 tackles, despite missing time with injury. 237 career tackles, 21.5 tackles for loss, and 6 sacks across 3 seasons at Cal. So BYU will have the best linebacking core in the Big 12, maybe even in the country, and a big reason for that is Cade Ulave, the Cal transfer.
Yeah, I think 2 of the top linebacking cores in the entire country are right here in this conference with BYU and Texas Tech. At number 3 for me, this is where my first Red Raider checks in. Austin Romaine, 6'2", 245.
See, now I had him defensive end.
Well, he's a backer. He's a backer.
Pass rushing linebacker.
Yeah, he's a pass rushing linebacker.
Outside linebacker. Okay.
Oh, yeah, he's a backer.
Okay.
Never lined up on the line of scrimmage. From Hillsboro, Missouri, small town guy, became the first K-State true freshman to start at linebacker since 1989.
Wow.
He shared Big 12 Defensive Freshman of the Year honors in 2023 with Ben Roberts, his teammate at Texas Tech, as he transfers from K-State. I think his his season last year was overshadowed by the fact that he only played in 9 games. He had a season-ending hand injury, but in those 9 games, he had a fumble recovery, he had an interception, he had 7 TFLs, and he had 66 tackles. His final game before surgery, by the way, was against Texas Tech. He had 11 tackles and an interception in that game. So now he teams up, and I think he's going to be their Jacob Rodriguez, just how he's all over the field.
Number 3 for me is Ethan Weslowski,
Great pick.
the Oklahoma State linebacker, transfer from North Texas. And, another player that transfers into Oklahoma State from North Texas. But even his name sounds like a badass linebacker. I mean, I think partially that's a big reason why he's as high on my list as he is. He's the all-name team for a linebacker. All joking aside, 90.6 PFF grade last year, which is the only transfer linebacker to crack a 90 PFF grade this cycle, and one of just 6 linebackers nationally to earn 85-plus grades in both coverage and run defense. 113 tackles last year, 9 tackles for loss, a sack and a half, and an interception, 3 forced fumbles. He's all over the field. If you watch him play, he's going to be a fun player to watch in the Big 12 next year at Oklahoma State. And, look, I think we all expect that Oklahoma State is going to go from the worst team in the Big 12 the last 2 years by far to one of the best in one offseason because of the additions, not just of the head coach, but of his former players from North Texas transferring over with him. And Weslowski is one of them.
Yeah, and he's a great story. Underrated recruit, 2-star out of high school, was a defensive end. Eric Morris recruits him to North Texas, and he was all over the field in his freshman year right away. Number 2 for me is I go out to Provo, Isaiah Glasker, who's another tremendous story. Nobody wanted
Ben Roberts, number 1.
Wow.
Go ahead. Sorry, on Glasker.
But Glasker, he was a walk-on and played receiver and safety in high school. And Coach Kalani Sitake called him into his office after his freshman year, where he started his career at BYU playing safety. And he said, hey, your best chance to play in the NFL is at linebacker. He had never played linebacker, so he packs on a bunch of weight. He still has those ball hawking like safety instincts. Last year as a junior, 67 tackles, 3 sacks, 2 interceptions. He also played in all 14 games despite a nagging injury. He chose to never sit out. He never played at 100%. Now that he's healthy, he's going to have a monster year, filling the void left by Jack Kelly going to the NFL. I've got Glasker at number 2.
Number 2 for me, this is where I have Tay Brown, the 6'2", 230-pound linebacker who returns as the Big 12's leading tackler at linebacker among our returning players. 93 tackles last year, 8.5 tackles for loss, a sack and a half. He was 3rd team all Big 12. And now he steps into a much larger role and an important role for this defense that really needs him. He started, you mentioned this, 24 consecutive games and 168 career tackles. He's a beast. Tay Brown, number 2 for me.
Number 1 is where I do have Ben Roberts. Even with Jacob Rodriguez on the field, he still had 74 tackles. And he committed to Texas Tech before Joey McGuire even got the job. He is a Texas Tech lifer. So in 2023, his freshman year, 107 stops. He shares Big 12 Freshman of the Year honors with Austin Romaine, his teammate now. He had the most tackles by a Tech freshman since 1980. He followed that up by starting all 13 games, 80 stops in 2024. Last year in his junior campaign, he was 3rd team all Big 12. He was the Big 12 championship game MVP against BYU because he had so many game-changing plays, including a critical interception. 74 tackles last year, 6 pass breakups, 3 picks, 3 TFLs. He's all over the field. He had 2 picks in the second half of their game against BYU. He's the first player in Big 12 championship game history to record 2 picks in a single game. And now that Rodriguez is gone, I think he skyrockets to the top of all the tackling numbers in the Big 12. He will lead the league in stops.
Yeah, good choice. I went, though, number 1 with Isaiah Glasker. So you and I have the exact same lists in different orders. I just have Weslowski because I didn't count Austin Romaine as a linebacker. I counted him more as a pass rusher outside linebacker. But so seems like there's pretty good consensus here on who the top 5 linebackers are.
Totally agree.
And I would certainly throw Romaine into the mix. But again, I thought of him more of as an outside linebacker pass rusher because of his pass rushing numbers. But maybe that's my mistake.
Well, and sorry, go ahead on Glasker.
So, I mean, look. I think the biggest thing with Glasker at 6'5", 240 pounds is that we haven't really seen the full capabilities of him yet because of health. I mean, he played 14 games in 25 with 67 total tackles, 3 sacks, and 2 interceptions, but had basically an ankle injury that, limited him through most of the season. So he played through this ankle injury, but he was not the same player that he could be. And he's even said, I'm 100% now, and can't wait to see what I could show being 100% now. Again, with Olave and Glasgow, this is the best linebacking core in the Big 12 and maybe in the country. So a fully healthy Glasgow, it feels kind of scary for the rest of the conference in terms of what they can be, even with new defensive coordinator Kelly Papinga.
Yeah, no, I think that's well said. And I had Ethan Weslowski on my honorable mention. He was probably the first linebacker out. I don't think people realize how good this kid is. He had the highest rated Pro Football Focus grade last season among any transferring linebacker in the entire country. And it's not like it's just his Pro Football Focus grade. The kid had 120 tackles last year, right? So he was only one of 3 linebackers in the country to grade at a certain level, playing a certain number of snaps. He is an elite linebacker, and he's going to be really good in this conference. The other kid that I considered was John Curry from Texas Tech. They're one of the few programs that have 3 linebackers on the field at all times. So last year it was Jacob Rodriguez and Curry and Roberts. This year it'll be Roberts, Curry, and Romaine. But he's another piece of that linebacking core that's very underrated in terms of his coverage skills. And then I also had 2 linebackers from Colorado on my honorable mention. Gideon Lamprin, the transfer from Bowling Green, who was all MAC. He was the only player in the nation to finish with 100 tackles and 15 or more TFLs. The only player in the nation last year.
Wow.
So he's going to be a beast. And then they also got a 4-star transfer from Texas who wasn't on the bench at Texas in Liana Lefu. He had 139 tackles for the Longhorns over the last 3 years. So Colorado has upgraded their linebacking room.
Owen Long is the guy that made my honorable mention, the Arizona State linebacker transferred from Colorado State. 151 tackles at Colorado State last year.
How did I miss him? He led the nation in tackles.
151 for Owen Long, a guy that just barely missed my list. He would have been number 6. Again, I didn't really count Austin Romaine, although I didn't have him on my best pass rushers, so maybe I missed totally there. Linebacker.
I would say, all right, don't beat yourself up.
I'm not. Why? What are you suggesting?
You've only brought it up 4 times. It's fine.
Well,
he can
I just
play
want people
all over the field.
Yeah, he's a good player. Glad he's not with Kansas State anymore. And I'm looking at that while saying that while not looking at you. I think so. This is the 3rd position group we've done so far. Without a doubt, the best position group we've done so far.
Agreed. I'm
concerned about the defensive line, defensive end situation of the Big 12, just in terms of the strength. There's some good players, but this group we've talked about today, without a doubt, trumps anything we talked about already with interior defensive linemen or defensive ends.
Yeah, so is the Big 12 shining at the linebacker position because the Big 12 is just really good at identifying linebackers? Or is it shining because other programs aren't valuing the position? They're valuing defensive linemen. And if you have a really good front 4, it minimizes the production on paper from the linebacker position. So that's a question that I have coming into the year. But this is a deep class, a deep room, and a nice blend of elite newcomers, but also a lot of guys returning that were very productive last year in this conference. And it's Texas Tech, and it's BYU, and then it's everybody else. Not saying those other rooms aren't going to be strong at other schools, but those 2 are clearly the upper echelon, and then there's a gap between 3 and 4.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, is you start to see, who's good at all 3 levels of the defense, and I think so far it's obvious that, Texas Tech, even without Sorsby, is going to be really good, which we obviously knew, but even more so when you dig deeper into the positions and how they pertain, how it ranks overall in terms of the Big 12.
And what a story that would be if they don't miss a beat. What if Jones comes in and he is rock solid? He doesn't have to be Patrick Mahomes with all the pieces they have around them. Did they win football games last year because Baron Morton was beating teams with his arm? Or because they were just a really well-oiled machine and he made all the right reads and the right plays? So what a story that would be if they don't miss a beat. They run the table. They're still Texas Tech, regardless of who's at quarterback.
All right, you taking Texas Tech or the field? We discussed that in Let's Get It On next. It's Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios.
Pressure again off the edge. Wigman has Koziel. He's got room to run. Touchdown!
Great protection. Jump ball for his tight end. And he reeled it in. Wow. How about Tanner Koziel? Tanner Koziel on that play. Goes up in the middle of 3 defenders.
Oh, nice.
To the end zone. The tight end, Koziel. Touchdown, Houston.
True 6'7", he blinked, he didn't blink and said, absolutely he is. And when you've got that against a guy who, although isn't short at 6 foot, and Marquise Groves Killebrew, 6 foot 179, the red shirt, junior transfer is no match for a guy 6'7", 257. You got reach on him, you got size on him, and a quarterback that can put it right on the spot. That's outstanding football.
Looking for 6 instead of 3. Wigman, touchdown! His favorite target, Tanner Koziel.
That one to the flat, he's going to be the crosser versus man coverage. Better double team this guy ever on the field.
In the game.
Rolling along on a Thursday with James Westling. I'm Ari Tepkin on social at James Westling. You can get me on social at Ari Sports. If you missed our series covering the top 5 linebackers of the Big 12, a reminder, you can check out TuneIn, download the app, and you can listen to our newcomer series that we did earlier this offseason, talking about the top 5 newcomers on the offensive line today. That you can catch at 1 o'clock Central, plus our interview of the day, as well at 1:45 Central. So the 1 o'clock Central, 2 o'clock hour today on TuneIn is full-on Big 12 Today content.
Do you remember who you had as your number 1 offensive lineman newcomer?
I do not. Do you?
I think it was Shadre Hurst, the offensive lineman from Tulane who is transferring to Houston. Jordan Church, I believe, would have been my second pick. The offensive lineman from Louisville who is transferring to Texas Tech. I believe that's who I had 1 and 2, but both guys that were all league at their previous stops, both guys that are going to have NFL futures, and both guys that are going to be in the Big 12 this next season.
Yeah. I think Hurst was on my list. I'm trying to think through some of the others. It's hard to remember, though. So make sure to check out that list, which you can catch at 1 o'clock Central, 2 o'clock Eastern Time on TuneIn and Big 12 Radio. All right, let's get it on. Will Connerly, our producer, is going to give us a topic, and we have to argue either sides of it.
Yes, let's get it on. First one. Who is going to win the Big 12? Texas Tech or the field? And this is for football.
James?
All right. Okay, I get to take this one. All right. Man, which fan base do I want to piss off more? I would take the field at this point in time. I look at Texas Tech's schedule. I don't see worse than a 10-2 season. They don't play Kansas State. They don't play BYU. They don't play Utah. I think 2 losses is their floor. With that said, I have a lot of belief in the other teams in this league when I look at BYU, when I look at Arizona, when I look at Houston, when I look at how dangerous like maybe a West Virginia or an Oklahoma State is going to be. Texas Tech plays them in Stillwater. I didn't even mention Arizona State. I think collectively the league is going to be better. So BYU would be my favorite right now to win the conference. Experienced quarterback, turning heads in spring with his development, loaded at receiver even with the loss of Roberts and Parker Kingston. I think they can be better and deeper at that position when you factor in their tight ends. The defense is always good. Then they've got 2 Big 12, all Big 12 offensive linemen coming back, albeit honorable mention selections. And then they're only expected to start 1 transfer on defense, and they return 9 starters back on that side of the ball. They are experienced, they are deep, and they went 12-2 last year. They've won more games in this league than anybody else the last 2 seasons. Why they're consistently an underdog each and every year blows my mind. So I will say the field, Will Connerly.
Wow. Will Connerly, our producer, called it a virtual lock that Texas Tech would win the Big 12.
Will's never afraid of a bold statement.
Hard to disagree with him based on the argument you just made. And look, I mean, they had, as we've gone through position-wise, at least 1 top 5 linebacker, at least 1 top 5 defensive lineman, at least 1 top 5 defensive end. We had 2 defensive ends. Could have included Austin Romaine in that conversation because of his sack numbers. Yeah, I mean, they're loaded. Talent-wise, they are head and shoulders above every other team in the Big 12. And, yeah, look, the quarterback situation notwithstanding, they're going to be in the Big 12 championship game. So you could take 15 other teams, but I will guarantee you that Texas Tech is going to be playing in the Big 12 championship. So that gives them a 50-50 shot at least. Yeah, Texas Tech easily the pick here.
The other 15 Big 12 member institutions get narrowed down to 1 for the Big 12 championship game, having to play Texas Tech. So I could definitely see it.
All right, topic number 2. Who will have more wins next year in football, Arizona or Arizona State? They both had 6 wins last year in conference play. Of course, Arizona by far the best quarterback in the league. James and Ari, it's Ari who's up first.
Yeah, I kind of want to let you take this one,
I refuse.
but I'll go with the easy answer here,
There is no easy answer.
which is Arizona. Look, I am excited to see what Arizona State does, and I have high expectations for them. But they're replacing a ton and have a lot of new players. And so because of that, and on the other side, you've got an Arizona team that's returning its quarterback, that returns its offensive coordinator. It's coming off a great year. Now, you do lose some of your secondary, but I think the activity that they showed in the portal, especially the secondary, we'll get to them later in this week when we do the top 5, safeties and corners. I think they're going to have a bunch on that list. So, even with some of the losses for Arizona, I think the losses for Arizona State are far more significant. And I'm just going to take the consistency with a 3-year starter now and Noah Fafita, and the second straight year in an offense that fits him and is tailored to his style. Plus, the receivers they added. I mean, this was not a good receiving core last year, and Fafita still had a really good year. So I think with what they added to the portal at running back, what they had at wide receiver, this is going to be a 9-10 win team, which I think will be very difficult for Arizona State to eclipse.
The easy answer here, the clear-cut team is Arizona State. Arizona loses the entire back half of their defense. They've got to overhaul their entire secondary, all but one of their linebackers. And Arizona State's defense has a bunch of returning starters coming back, spearheaded by the #1 defensive tackle in C.J. Fight in the conference. They bring back Clayton Smith, who is expected to be their starting defensive end. So the defensive line, I think, is better. They bring in the top tackler in the country in Owen Long at linebacker. Lyric Rawls started every game this past season and was KU's best defensive back. He's going to be their safety, and those safeties shine in Kenny Dillingham and Brian Ward, the defensive coordinator system. And then offensively, Arizona State has more weapons this year than they had last year, even with Jordan Tyson, because he missed a lot of time. Without Sam Leavitt at quarterback, for that team to go 8-5 was a miracle. Cutter Boley and even Mikey Keene. They also have a 4-star redshirt freshman, Cameron Dyer, if they have to. All 3 of those guys are upgrades over Sims at quarterback. And then they bring back 3 offensive linemen, even with Ahanichor off to the NFL. Kyson Brown's back at running back. And 2 of the top portal wide receivers in the country. Omarion Miller is the #1 receiver transfer by some recruiting services. Reed Harris is going to be a pro. Something about Kenny Dillingham in Dilly I trust. I think Arizona State had a down year last year, and they still won 8 games. So Arizona State is the pick for me, and they're going to be out for blood in that rivalry because Arizona got them last year. No way it happens 2 years in a row.
Both teams have their over-under win total set at 7.5.
I would take the over on both.
Yeah.
All right, topic number 3. Tommy Lloyd and TJ Otzelberger both received contract extensions in the month of April. Who will cut down the nets and win a natty first?
Tommy Lloyd, Arizona. #1, he's...
You would.
You would take the easy. Both of them could potentially win a national championship, but
Get off that fence, James.
I'm betting on the guy that's already been to a Final Four and was only 2 games away. I also look at the way both programs are recruiting, and Iowa State, developmental, not saying they can't get there with their formula, but Arizona's going to break through at some point. They've already been a Final Four team with a roster loaded with freshmen. If Koa Pete comes back, they could win the Natty this upcoming season. I believe they're going to be that good. Caleb Holt is a CBG, certified bucket getter. Like, the guy just fills it up. Nobody has any clue how good this kid is. And then the depth pieces with Karchenkov and Krivos. I think Arizona's Final Four contender right now, whereas Iowa State's got to show me they can get past the Sweet 16. So, Tommy Lloyd, Arizona, that's my pick.
James.
Why am I so wrong?
I think that shirt is so tight it's cutting off the circulation, which is going to your head and making you say crazy, foolish things.
Tomorrow I'm wearing the largest shirt I own.
The answer here is clearly TJ Otzelberger. Have you not been paying attention? I mean, nobody has done more with less in college basketball than Otzelberger. And so he's just scratching the surface of his potential in terms of recruiting and roster development. Look at the roster he put together and how quickly he put it together. Save me your slow and methodical that Kansas is doing. TJ Otzelberger, as soon as the portal opened, closed his own portal by signing players that immediately fit their system, plus Killian Torre. Like, I think the development of players over multiple years that he's able to have, like, all of that plays into it. I mean, he basically had to kick Milan Momcilovic out, saying, like, you should go somewhere else. Either go to the NBA or go somewhere else because we got more guys coming in. But just how far they've gone, despite the injuries, to me is what makes me most optimistic. I mean, this is a guy in Otzelberger that's coached some very good teams that have not even scratched the surface of their potential because they've had injuries the worst possible times, including this past year, and yet they still made it to the second weekend. So Otzelberger is the answer here, and it might not even be close.
Will we? No, clearly. Will we ever see a Texas Tech quarterback make it through a season fully healthy? And will we ever see an Iowa State basketball team play in the NCAA tournament fully healthy? Those are the two programs that have just been bitten by that injury bug.
Or will we ever see Arizona be more consistently good at shooting threes?
Wow. Tommy on line 4.
All right, topic number 4. Will David Bailey have more than 10 sacks in his rookie year? He was the number 2 pick to the Jets. Bonus points if you can name the last player to play in the Big 12 that had 10 or more sacks in their rookie year. The last guy to do it, James Pierce Jr., this past year had 10.5 with the Falcons. Before that, it was 2021 Micah Parsons. And you've got to go a little further back to see the last time a Big 12 guy did it. But yes or no, does he have more than 10 sacks?
Did the former player that did it, did he play at Oklahoma or Texas?
No, but he did play for a school that's in the Big 12, that was in the Big 12, but not currently.
Alden Smith.
No.
Give it to us, Will. I've got nothing. The last
2011.
2011.
Von Miller.
Ooh, nice.
Oh, good call. Yep.
Nice.
Okay, but back to David Bailey. Is he going to get more than 10 sacks in his rookie year with the Jets?
So what's interesting is you mentioned James Pierce, and before him it was 4 years before it had been done with Micah Parsons. I'm going to say yes here because, like, somebody's going to have to get after the quarterback for the Jets. I think there's going to be a lot of attention drawn towards him, and despite that, I think, as there was this year, he still had 14.5 sacks. This is a guy that I think, like, to me, just watching him, like, he gets out of bed and he gets 10 sacks. So if James Pierce is able to do it for the Falcons in his rookie year, I think David Bailey could do it.
I mean, they do play more games now in the NFL than they did when Myles Garrett or Trayvon Walker or Kayvon Thibodeau were rookies, all guys who did not eclipse 10 sacks in their first year. So maybe that's the angle, but the Jets don't exactly have the supporting cast on their defensive line to help him out. I mean, teams are going to be targeting him every single snap, trying to keep him away from their quarterback. So I lean no, just because of how rare it is in the NFL for a rookie to have double-digit sacks. In the scouting report, you know, he's a sack monster, and he'll be a double-digit sack guy eventually. But NFL Draft Buzz notes that, you know, once the supporting elements catch up. So in his rookie year, in his first year, I don't know that he gets to 10 sacks. So I'll say no because Ari said yes.
I do think, though, Aaron Glenn as the defensive coordinator or head coach at DC, like, he's going to scheme David Bailey into better situations. You drafted him number 2 overall. You know what he can do. They targeted him. They wanted him. Yeah, to me, I think the Aaron Glenn factor is why I picked yes.
And Aaron Glenn is completely, like, he's made it his mission to overhaul the defense. That is priority number 1. Whereas the Jets have typically spent a bunch of money on offensive guys that watch their careers in New York die. He's going to start on the defensive side of the ball, so I do like that move too.
The other component to that is the Jets, not a good team. They don't typically play teams that throw the ball because they're going to be running it, but they do have Geno Smith on their team now, so in practice, he'll obviously be throwing a lot of interceptions, led the league in that category.
Wow, take that, former West Virginia signal caller, Geno Smith.
Oh. Well, they only had 1 interception as a team last year, right? Or they didn't even, the Jets broke an NFL record.
Yeah, I don't think they had any.
They didn't have any interceptions, so they got Geno in practice. They're going to get opportunity to get some interceptions.
Geno, Jameis Winston.
Yes.
Throw some picks.
Wait, former Jet Geno Smith is back with the Jets?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Yeah.
And David Bailey, of course, starting up front. So final one, which basketball team would win a game with the rosters currently constructed? Arizona or Kansas?
So if they're playing one another side by
Yes,
side,
right now.
I lean Kansas. I do. Tyron.
You rat.
Oh. Let's get it on. I'm going to make you make the case for Arizona. Let's get it on.
Make your case.
I don't think Arizona has anybody right now that can guard Tyron Stokes. And then Keanu Dawes is really underrated on the front line. Now, Arizona would have the height in that matchup, but KU's not done. But with the roster right now, Leroy Blyden Jr. is a dog. Taylon Kinney is a dog. There's not that much of a drop-off in terms of recruiting rankings from Taylon Kinney and Caleb Holt. And Holt is being asked right now to be Arizona's primary scorer. Koa Pete is in the NBA draft as of right now. So if this question is current roster, I'm taking Kansas because of Stokes. I don't think, I look at like position by position. Stokes to me is more NBA ready, an elite scorer. His 230-pound frame would be a problem for Ivan Karchinkov in Arizona. I take Kansas.
So how many wins did Arizona have last year?
A quiet 36.
How many did Kansas have?
24.
Does Arizona have any players left from last year?
A couple starters.
Does Kansas?
No, none.
Yeah, so why are you picking Kansas here?
I love what they've done in the portal.
Yeah, I mean, the answer here is obviously Arizona. They won 36 games last year. They returned two very important and impactful players in there, including Krivas, who you could argue is their most impactful player on both an offensive and defensive end perspective. Now, as currently constituted, it doesn't include Koa Pete, but we know that it could very well include Koa Pete. Plus, they added Derek Dixon from North Carolina and J.J. Mandequit from Washington and Caleb Holt. Yeah, I don't think there's any question here. The better team with more wins is Arizona.
No question, Will. No question.
Big 12 today, Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. That's a little Let's Get It On. Matthew Winnick joins us next, college basketball analyst and consultant. It's Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio.
Here comes the rush. Jackson off platform. Knocked down on the edge. Keyshawn Elliott running and hitting in space. It is first and goal. Play fake. Chapin rolling right. Chapin is being pursued, and instead of throwing it away, he takes a sack. So instead of throwing the ball away, he takes a loss of about 4.
Hoover, nice pump fake, but trapped. Keyshawn Elliott again.
Outstanding job by Keyshawn Elliott. Downs in their last 9 red zone trips. Connors gets the pitch. Nowhere to go, nowhere to hide. Swallowed up by Keyshawn Elliott, second leading tackler on the team. That's number 52 on the year.
They take off. Jackson rolls their way. Hit as he throws. And these Sun Devils, they are hitting tonight. No gain there. 2nd and 10. Sprint roll. And a sack. Keyshawn Elliott had Scotty Fox Jr. roll right to him.
It's Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. Let's talk basketball offseason with Matthew Winnick, college basketball analyst and consultant. What's going on, Matthew? How are you?
How's it going, guys? Good morning.
Yeah, great to have you on with us again. Based on the big news from yesterday and the commitment of Tyron Stokes with Kansas, like, how do you see that fit? What do you like about Stokes?
Stokes is an interesting guy. I don't know if he can single-handedly prop a team up to the NCAA tournament like AJ DeBonsa basically did at BYU after Richie Saunders got hurt. Obviously, he's a very good basketball player, but I think we've kind of had our expectation for what freshmen can do a little bit, I'm not going to say fully ruined, but a little bit ruined by just how amazing the freshman class was last year.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So how close would you say he is to like an AJ DeBonsa in terms of his impact?
I mean, it's tough to say exactly. Like, he's not going to lead. I don't think he's going to lead the Big 12 in scoring or be second in the country in scoring. I don't think that's happening this go around. But obviously, he can impact the game in multiple ways. I think that he's very versatile. He's definitely more versatile than Darren Peterson was at Kansas, but obviously nowhere near the scorer. There's going to need to be a lot more around him than there needed to be around Darren Peterson from an offensive perspective.
What are some of the most impactful transfer portal commitments out of the Big 12 so far? What are the ones that have maybe stuck out to you the most?
Yeah, I'm really interested in a couple of different places. Obviously, Cincinnati starting from complete scratch. Everyone on their team right now was not on Cincinnati last year, so they're going to hope that some of those guys that they added were very impactful transfers, simply just because they had to replace absolutely everything. But I'm looking over at Texas Tech, and I'm looking at Cruz Davis from Hofstra going over to the Red Raiders, because they're replacing basically all of their scoring from last year, assuming JT Toppin can't come back to return from his injury next season. He's going to have to be their best player if Christian Anderson stays in the NBA draft. And going from Hofstra, after starting his career at St. John's, where he was nothing more than a role player, he's going to have to be one of the very most impactful transfers in the country. So a lot of weight on his shoulders. I think he can do it. He's a really well-rounded guard with decent size, but he's really going to have to step up to the plate for Texas Tech and probably lead them in scoring.
Matt, I love the analytical stuff that you do at Basket Review, and NBA teams will sometimes use free throw shooting to project a player's long-term shooting ability from the three-point line, and you broke it down at the NCAA level. So tell us about this piece, what went into it, and who are the biggest names that stood out?
Yeah, for sure. Look, college basketball coaches, especially now that NIL is such a huge factor, they're looking for value. They can't pay everybody $2 million. And the reality is, we look at stats, very basic stats, to try to tell us if a player is good or not when there's 3,000 players in the transfer portal. So if you see someone shooting 29% from three, you're like, well, they can't shoot. Obviously, we're not going to take them to be a shooter. But the facts are, in a 30-game college basketball season, think about the NBA. There's 82 games. A player can struggle in 30 games and have an amazing 50 games after, and now they've kind of got that shooting percentage back up where it's meant to be. There are college basketball players who had a 29% shooting season last year that really can shoot the basketball. So the concept behind that research study was like, which guys are underrated in the market that aren't getting paid like shooters that actually can shoot. And so you look at guys all across the board. Dre Gibbs-Lawhorn, to go back to Texas Tech, he's someone at Illinois, shot 26% from deep at Illinois, went to UNLV, had better reps. The free throw shooting at Illinois was really good. At UNLV, he was up over 40%, and now he gets back into the power conference game at Texas Tech. It's really just these small samples. You never really know who's an elite shooter when they're only playing, 30 games and taking 100 shots.
Who's still out there right now? Like, who do you think in the portal, or maybe even from an international prospect, is intriguing to you?
Yeah, unfortunately, there's not a lot of people out there. There's a lot more spots for different teams than there are players available. We are low on guys that can actually be impactful pieces. You look at the transfer portal, basically all of them are in the NBA draft. Like, if Milan Momcilovic gets out of the draft, he is immediately the number one player in the transfer portal. I don't think he should. I don't think you shoot 49% from deep every year, and that's really what he does best. So I think you capitalize on that and you just go to the NBA draft. But outside of that, I'd say the best guy that is not in the NBA draft right now is Juke Harris. He's likely to go to Tennessee, but that's not certain. And then Paul McNeil, who was at NC State last year, might go back to NC State with the new coaching staff, but might follow Will Wade, his old coach at LSU. I think that he is probably the best, for sure, not going in the NBA draft transfer available.
Matthew Winnick, college basketball analyst for Basket Review, joining us on Big 12 today. So with that said, Matt, like, how do these teams fill their rosters the rest of the offseason? If there's nobody left in the portal, if the international pool is thin, like what's left?
It's a great question. I'm seeing good role players, quote unquote, guys that could play 8th, 9th, 10th man minutes on a power conference team, just continuing to go to mid-major programs. It's like these teams don't really care about their depth if their depth is just average. They're looking for they're much more interested in top end talent, which is why we're seeing Mark Pope go to Europe and different college coaches continuing to pluck EuroLeague guys, because I think in an era, in the transfer portal era, where you could take like a 3-4 star freshman, develop him for a year or two, you think he's going to leave. If he doesn't play, he's going to go down a level. And if he plays well, he's going to transfer and leave. And I just think coaches are so uninterested in taking developmental freshmen right now. So it's all about who's old and who's experienced. And I think that's kind of a dangerous game. But it's really where these coaches are looking. They're looking for quick fixes. They're looking for Band-Aids because they don't see the value in developing a guy for 4 years, because he's just statistically not going to be there for that long.
I'm curious if you've noticed any trends in the portal this year in terms of the types of players teams are going after, the money that's being spent, strategies overall. Just kind of curious for your thoughts on that.
It's all about big men. People want bigs. It's tall, and honestly, because there's no wingspan. You think about the NBA draft, we're all about, oh, well, he's not that tall, but his wingspan is very long. We don't have wingspan data in college basketball, so all we really have is the eye test and height. Really tall guys are getting paid a really large sum of money, and it is sort of positionally like, yeah, if you're a point guard and you're 6'4", you're going to get paid more than a 6'1" point guard, but a lot of these teams are really just doing it with bigs. Like, if you're 7 foot tall, you are a power conference player, unless you are extraordinarily bad. You look at Kansas and Christian Reeves. He failed at Duke. He did not succeed at Clemson, and then he went to Charleston, a lower level team in the CAA, and he was good. He wasn't a superstar, but now he's slated to start for Kansas because he is 7'2", and those guys don't grow on trees. So we are seeing just a large emphasis on, if you are really tall, we are going to take a chance on you and hope that you can figure it out at the power conference level.
All right, 3 names, Matt, I want to ask you about, just to tell us what your gut says about, are these guys in the NBA next year, or are they at a college basketball program? Christian Anderson at Texas Tech, Koa Pete, Arizona, and then Milan Momcilovic.
My gut says all 3 of them are leaving. The depth of this draft is weak. If you're Milan Momcilovic and you're a 3-point shooting specialist and you shot 49%, you're capitalizing on that. I think your value is never going to be higher. With Koa Pete, he's someone that's just so gifted athletically that I don't see why you go back to college when you're one step closer to that second contract where the real money is. With how athletic he is, he's getting a second contract, even if he really struggles in the NBA. I don't think that the NIL, or, even if it makes more NIL this year, I don't think that's the greatest long-term investment for him. And then you think about Christian Anderson. He almost entered the transfer portal and he didn't. Texas Tech has already added 3 guards, 6'3" or under. I do not think Texas Tech thinks that Christian Anderson's coming back. So my guess is all 3 are gone.
Yeah, and what do you make of the lack of early entrance in the NBA draft? How much NIL is impacting the sport overall with that?
Yeah, it's making a huge impact. If you are not someone, I mentioned the second contract piece with Koa Pete. If you're not someone that's guaranteed to have a second contract, obviously no one's guaranteed, but like 6'8", ultra athletic, multi-positional versatility. If you're a one-trick pony, if you're undersized, if you're not that athletic, you might not get that second contract in the NBA, or at least a big one. So when that's the case, that NIL payment that you're getting is one of the best transfers, especially with teams so desperate right now for transfers and just depth. You're making so much more money in the short term, and it makes sense to capitalize on that while you can.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised that so many guys are coming back, especially ones that don't project as first-round picks in the NBA draft.
Matthew Winnick, college basketball analyst, consultant, Basket Review. Go check out the great work that he does and that they do. Thanks for your time, as always, Matt. Be well.
For sure.
Matthew Winnick joining us here. Great analysis from Matthew Winnick there. Big 12 Today, Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios.
Sword zeroes in, flicks the wrist, and Royer is wide open. Wrestled down inside the 20. Entering the backfield on 3rd and long. Sorsby off the back.
A great teammate, a great leader, doesn't talk a lot, but he's very trusted. Joe Royer on the inside.
Sorsby into the end zone. Joe Royer, first touchdown of the day.
In this building, including myself, thought that Corey Kiner was going to get some more. Make it to him. He got deep.
The leg.
Pass, touchdown to the tight end, Royer. There's a flag, though, in the end zone.
It's clearly offside because you got a guy running on the field. They made a play the entire play with 12.
Get off the field. Sorsby hangs in and delivers. Joe Royer.
Watch Joe Royer here working in the middle of 3. Just goes up, sees his quarterback in trouble. Defender falls down. Nice job going up, making the play, moving to hit Taylor Davis. formation, the defense not only is it allowed, does it get him.
Through 6 weeks of the season, and Baker Mayfield playing MVP.
Here's Joe Royer who breaks a tackle. Joe Royer, touchdown.
Royer, all he does is turn around, sit, show hands, and then he makes one guy miss and land in Cleveland, and he races to the end zone.
Big 12 Radio. This is Big 12 Today, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios, along with James Westling. I'm Ari Tepkin. Just talked with Matthew Winnick. What'd you make of what he said about Tyron Stokes?
So I still think Tyron Stokes is going to be a really good player. Him and A.J. DeBonsa actually played together 1 year of high school. Now, Tyron Stokes was a sophomore. A.J. DeBonsa was a junior. But A.J. DeBonsa scored 19 or 20 points per game. Tyron Stokes was around 13 or 14 points per game. The gap wasn't that big. Now, I'm not saying he's going to come in and lead the nation in scoring and score 25 points per game. He's not going to have to. But this get for Kansas is huge. He shoots it well. He shot over 40% from three. He's 6'7", 230 with a 7-foot wingspan. Like Matt said, collegiate programs don't have any way to track wingspan. Well, that doesn't mean they can't find those numbers in that data. Baylor does. Baylor has a wingspan category in their media guide and on their roster page. They very much look for guys that are long-armed. It's not a coincidence that Cameron Carr is 6'5" with a 7-foot wingspan and can almost touch the rim flat-footed. Like Tyron Stokes, he's built like a forward. He can score and handle the basketball like a guard. I mean, he's been playing high level against the best competition in the country since he was an 8th grader. Like in 8th grade, he played in the Nike Peach Jam under 16 bracket as an 8th grader. So he's been playing against guys that are older than him. He's been playing with guys that are older than him, and he has very much held his own. So I don't know that I necessarily agree that he can't be that type of player. It just might not translate in terms of his stats. But what Kansas fans care about is he on the floor, and does it translate to wins?
Yeah, in some ways, he's almost the opposite of Darren Peterson, where he's got that dog in him, like his competitive fire, that edge that he has is exactly the edge I think a lot of Kansas fans wanted Darren Peterson to play with. You know, I do also want to give some credit to Peterson because I feel like you leave the season where he was such a stain for most of the year. But, like, at the end of the year, the Final Four games, like we talked about this, Melvin Council, Trey White, and Bryson Tiller were nowhere to be found. They were awful. And Darren Peterson played his best basketball in those Final Four games. So, in a sense, there's like a level of irony because the way the season started and the expectations of Kansas with, well, they're going to be good because of Peterson, but they don't really have much aside from him. Like, the season really went full circle with Kansas to where, like, that ended up being true, even though throughout the season it looked like, oh, those guys had emerged in a big way, and suddenly they've got much better players around Peterson than we thought. Ultimately ended up being exactly right, though.
And I look at Kansas last year, and really, I mean, that's kind of been the thing for KU the last 3 years, right? Like, they've had that one guy. They've had that star. They just haven't had the supporting cast. I mean, when Jalen Wilson was in his prime and the peak of his career, he had 3 or 4 guys around him that were maybe not as good, but very capable. Ochai Agbaji and the team that won the national championship. He was a 20-point-per-game guy, yes, but they also had pieces around him that made him better. He didn't have to carry the load. And then I think about the McCullough team, think about the Peterson team last year. Those were still 20-point-per-game guys, but then there was a massive drop-off, and KU just hasn't had the depth as of late when I look at the last 3 seasons. Next year's roster is shaping up to very much have that. They still need some bigs. Like, I still have concerns about the front court. Keanu Dawes is kind of a tweener. He's an undersized 4. Who's going to be their starting center? Is Mbia going to be the guy that steps in and makes that jump, a developmental piece, played more minutes last year as the season went along, or are they still hunting for either an international prospect or a late portal ad? But Stokes is going to be very capable of leading this team. He's got that mentality that you speak of in terms of that want to. And he has his best friend, former teammate, on the roster with him. That is a very much intangible thing that's getting overlooked. Having Taylon Kinney handling the ball, somebody that you grew up with, somebody that you're comfortable with, and somebody that's also a top 10 5-star recruit. I mean, that pair will be more dynamic to me than what we saw this last year with Burries and Pete, or with Kingston Flemings and Chris Sinak, who knew each other a little bit, and Burries and Pete had been growing up and playing together. So it's probably more that combo than it is anybody else.
What does this say about the Big 12? Because we hit on it yesterday. 4 of the top 8 recruits in basketball have committed to the Big 12. I'm assuming that's more than any other conference.
By far.
Like, what's the most that the ACC has, or the Big 10, or the SEC out of those top 8? And, look, I mean, this past year, I think was a pretty good prove-it sort of ground from a Big 12 perspective, and I think a lot of kids have taken notice. I mean, the fact that Tyron Stokes picked Kansas over Kentucky and Oregon, 2 Nike schools, I don't think we can underrate what this means overall. Like, the fact that he picked the school regardless of the affiliation with shoe companies, which makes a huge difference. We don't see it very often, which is why it's significant.
I mean, Duke is still having phenomenal recruiting classes. North Carolina is still putting together top 10 recruiting classes. But in the past, the number 1 player in America went to Duke, right? That hasn't been the case. Cooper Flagg, yes. Post Flagg, no. It's been right here in the Big 12 Conference. It was Kentucky, North Carolina, Duke. Every year, the number 1 player in America went to one of those 3 programs. That is no longer the case. And 4 of the top 8 prospects for this incoming freshman class are going to be playing in the Big 12. That's 1 more than last year. That's way more than anybody else in the country. And so I think it says a lot about the Big 12 solidifying itself as being, the line that the commissioner uses, the second best league in America behind the NBA. When it comes to recruiting rankings and prospects and NBA draft ready guys, the data's there. There are more 5-stars in the Big 12 than anywhere else in the country. Now the question remains for me, the transfer portal, the developmental guys, the rotational guys, how does the Big 12 stack up to the other leagues there? Because there are still some other teams in other leagues that are getting headlines with what they're doing in the portal. Michigan should not be overlooked. Louisville should not be overlooked. But high school talent, 5-stars ready, NBA draft prospects that are ready, are coming to the Big 12, and that's a really cool thing.
Yeah, and I think what's really interesting is, the Big 12 doesn't have as much money to spend as the SEC and the Big 10, as we know, and yet despite that, they're still raking in when it comes to the 5-star recruits. So maybe the part of that is the approach in the portal and strategy for a lot of other teams. To me, this is very much related to this ongoing discussion in which NIL has had a dramatic impact on the NBA in terms of just the raw numbers. So the big number this year is that 71 early entrants from college basketball have hit the NBA draft. So guys that are not eligibility, 71 of them have hit the draft. That is a small number in comparison. So just looking over this, in 2021, the all-time record of early entrants to the NBA draft was 353. 353 out of a draft that has 2 rounds.
Has 60 spots?
Yes. It's insane. Okay, and then in 2022, number went to 283. In 2023, the number went to 242, 201 in 2024, 109 in 2025, and then 71 in 2026. So clearly trending down. A lot of players are returning. What's interesting about this is, where are they going? We just did an entire series looking at all 16 teams in the Big 12, and the majority of these teams are not returning players. So where are they going? Where are these guys going?
Exactly. And Matt noted that there's not that much left in the portal. So are teams hitting the international market? Are there some hidden gems on the recruiting trail that are 3-star recruits that can come in and be developmental guys? I mean, you're seeing teams, for the most part, when you look at like the composite recruiting transfer portal rankings, most teams have 5, 6, 7 commitments. That seems to be like consistently across the board. Arizona State has a top 10 portal class. They have 7 commitments. The number 1 class in the country is Louisville. They have 6. Texas is number 2. They have 5. And then teams that are ranked 3, 4, and 5 all have 6 commitments. So it's pretty consistent across the board. I think that number back in 2021, 370 players entering for the NBA draft, underclassmen. Those guys knew that if they didn't get drafted, they could go overseas and make more money. They could make more money playing in Brazil. They could make more money playing in Germany. Whereas now, guys can make more money staying put. And that is the new path. That is the new professional overseas basketball player. They're staying in college. But where are they going is a great question.
Yeah, because, again, I mean, maybe this is part of the Big 12 strategy relative to everybody else. Maybe the SEC and the Big 10 are spending money in the portal, whereas the Big 12 has decided we're going for the top fish. That's going to bring more eyeballs, attention, NBA scouts to us, which will in turn help us overall.
Great point. And last year's recruiting class, high school, I think football, the transfer portal, because there's so many guys and your body is so much different between 18 and 21, when you're spending every year trying to add muscle, get faster, get stronger, whereas basketball, there's a physicality, there's a height aspect, but it's also more of a skill-based sport, I would argue, than it is what your body looks like, right? So in football, you need those more experienced portal guys that's going to move the needle, more so than in basketball where you can go get high school guys and flip your program overnight. And the Big 12 now has 4 of the top 7 prospects, the recruiting rankings updated today by Rivals. The top 7 prospects, 4 are going to be in the Big 12 next year, right? Stokes, Caleb Holt at Arizona, Dylan Mingo's up to number 6, he's going to Baylor, and Bruce Branch III is number 7 going to BYU. And that's fresh off of last year. 10 of the 27 5-star prospects in America, almost 40% of them, played in the Big 12. And you had the top 2 guys in DeBonsa and Peterson, likely the top 2 picks in this summer's draft.
Okay, so let me ask you this. You've got $10. You could spend $8 of your dollars on a stud freshman or $8 of your dollars on a transfer portal player. It's an oversimplification. I guess what I'm saying is this the right money? Is this the right way for the Big 12 and Big 12 teams to spend their money?
I would spend my $8 on a 5-star freshman. Would I spend my $8 on a 3-star or a 4-star who's maybe a top 100 player, but he isn't a top 10 player? When I can go get experienced portal guys? No, I'd rather have the portal guys. But not only are these prospects bringing in like NBA ready now talent, but also they're a brand. A.J. DeBonsa was a brand for BYU. Darren Peterson was a brand for Kansas. It brought a lot of eyeballs, a lot of attention to those programs that I'm not sure a transfer portal guy is going to.
No, I mean, more NBA scouts, right? The more NBA scouts you attract on a consistent basis, the more players you're going to attract. What I think is interesting, too, is like I think the industry is better right now at evaluating high school talent than they are at transfer portal talent. And I'm not saying that like teams are making decisions on rosters based on that. I just think like the issue here is you might maybe be in position, like maybe you say, I'd rather bring in a portal player because they're more experienced, they're older, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The problem is you got to find the right one. And that's where I think like we're better off right now at evaluating 5-star recruits relative to a 4-star in the portal. Fit plays a huge role. We've seen a bunch of guys that filled it up at different schools, then go to another school and they're a completely different player. I feel like you know what you're going to get out of a 5-star. Now maybe there's a ceiling there because we just haven't seen a ton of 5-star freshmen lead teams to national titles, but it's a better bet right now than the portal because, again, like you could find the right players in the portal. I'm not suggesting that, but there's a lot of landmines there too, and if you've spent on the wrong guys, you're Kansas State.
Yeah.
You're Kansas to a degree.
It's a fair point. Would you take a star-studded freshman class like Arizona did and a Final Four berth? Like, sure, nobody's broken through and won a national championship, but they've gotten close.
Well, don't say nobody. I mean, Carmelo Anthony, You know, I mean, that was
Anthony Davis, Kentucky.
Yeah, like it's happened.
And maybe in this modern era, we just haven't seen it, and so that's why it's kind of right there in our brain. But we've seen teams get really close, and the other...
We just brought up 2 examples of teams beating Kansas in the national title, by the way.
Which is why they stick out to me.
Same here.
But, like, you know, that's a fantastic angle. The 5-star freshmen versus the portal guys. Because the portal guys have already been through it, and they're going through it again. They have expectations. Whereas the 5-star freshmen, they don't know what they don't know. And the 5-star freshmen have balled out in this league and done really well in terms of the NCAA tournament. Like, BYU didn't get bounced by Texas because of A.J. DiBonsa. They got bounced because of all the injury issues that they had. The other thing that this Tyron Stokes commitment highlights for me is this prolific prep pipeline.
Yeah.
In the Big 12, right? So they've been around for like 11 years. And they've had 14 McDonald's All-Americans. Josh Jackson, Kansas. Eve Misi, Baylor. Then you've got A.J. DiBonsa, ran through prolific prep. Darren Peterson went through prolific prep. Wasn't there at the same time as Stokes. Stokes goes through prolific prep. They're in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. They relocated. But the Big 12 has a direct pipeline to the premier basketball academy in America. And these guys are landing at Big 12 schools.
It's Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. Lindsey Schnell wrote a great piece profiling Tyron Stokes, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We'll get her perspective on that next. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios.
Play fake. Sorsby taking a shot. Touchdown, Cincinnati. Firing, connecting for a touchdown. Sorsby hits Cyrus Allen for the second time today.
And again, his confidence is growing.
Hart always said to commit to his school, not a coach. That's why he has persevered in Cincinnati. Now he'll launch for the end zone. Perfectly thrown ball. Touchdown, Cyrus Allen.
Jimmy's got it. Laser for a touchdown. Cyrus Allen puts Cincinnati back on the high side.
Great start at 5-1, equaling the win total from last season. Out of empty on first down.
Sorsby to Allen across the middle. Broken tackle. Touchdown.
Cincinnati strikes first.
Doug, thank you. We start the second with an option pitch. Around the edge, Cyrus Allen is in. Touchdown, Cincinnati.
Joe Warner back onto the field, top of your screen.
Pressure comes. Cyrus Allen out of the backfield with his third touchdown. This offense has been unstoppable. Sorsby has 55 of the 133 rushing yards. Fires to the end zone. It's time to Allen.
Big 12 Radio, Big 12 Today, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. One of the best pieces I saw, profiling Tyron Stokes, was written by our next guest, Lindsay Schnell from The Athletic. Has a fantastic profile out right now of Tyron Stokes, the good, the bad, and everything. Lindsay, how are you?
Hey, good morning. I'm good.
Yeah, appreciate your time, and again, really enjoyed this piece, which sort of laid out bare the full Tyron Stokes story, including quotes from him and many others as you've been following him. So I guess just kind of take us inside here and what led to this profile and maybe your last year of covering Tyron Stokes.
Yeah, well, I think the most important thing to know off the top is I've done a complete 180 on this kid. So I saw him for the first time at Peach Jam last summer. It's the premier event of the grassroots game, the summer grassroots circuit. And I just thought he had a really bad attitude and I was underwhelmed. He's obviously really talented, but I didn't think that his talent necessarily outweighed his attitude. And a lot of people were saying the same thing. A lot of coaches who were college coaches who were there, NBA scouts who were there, questioning his attitude. But I said to a bunch of them, well, has anyone asked him about it? Has anyone talked to him about this? Or are we all just making assumptions? So then he came, I live in Portland, Oregon, and he and his team came down from Seattle to play in the Les Schwab Invite, which is this big high school showcase, played annually in Portland after Christmas. And Rainier Beach got upset. They were supposed to win their quarterfinal game and then be matched up against Sierra Canyon, which has multiple players going D1 to top 25 programs. And everyone was really excited about that. And instead, they got outplayed. Again, I thought he had a bad attitude and I was just underwhelmed. But after that game, I talked to him, and to his credit, I just said, like, let's talk about these narratives that are swirling around you and the fact that a lot of people do think you have a bad attitude. Like, what do you think about that? And I was really impressed at just how frank he was, and I appreciated that. And I knew I was going to have a chance to see him again at Hoop Summit. So you have to remember that when he was with Rainier Beach at the end of December, he had only been in that program for maybe 6 weeks, maybe 8. But after a full season of playing under them, when he came up here to Hoop Summit, which it takes place just after the Final Four, I thought he was just like a different person. But I also wondered, was I giving him the benefit of the doubt because I had talked to him a little bit? So I thought that everything was different at Hoop Summit, in my opinion. But I also had gotten to know him a little bit, and I think that can change how you look at someone. So I was really, really impressed with him at Hoop Summit. Not again, his talent is so obvious, but just the way he was interacting with teammates, pumping guys up, being encouraging. His basketball IQ is off the charts, and that was really obvious during the Hoop Summit game. His ability to adjust, to know what they needed. But again, just the way he was being encouraging. And I talked to a lot of his teammates. I talked to his mom. I talked to Jamal Crawford, who was one of his high school assistants. And they all said the same thing. If you get to know him, you really get him. And so I was really grateful that he gave me the opportunity to talk to him and get to know him a little bit. And I think a big piece of his journey has been he does need to be coached hard. He needs to be coached by someone who's going to push him. And I think Self is going to do that. And he can thrive at Kansas. I'm really excited to watch. Right after he committed, I got a text from an analyst, a TV analyst, who was like, I love what you wrote, and I agree with you. This kid is going to be awesome at KU.
So what did you learn about his childhood and the person that he is that allowed you to make that 180-degree pivot?
Well, so it's just him and his mom. His mom had him when she was really young, and so, as she said, they grew up together. They kind of raised each other, and because of that, it was so funny. Jamal Crawford was the one that pointed this out to me, and I hadn't really thought of it, but he's very, very Tyron is very guarded. You have to work hard to get to his inner circle. And, a lot of high school players these days roll into the gym with an entourage. It's true. I've been to some grassroots tournaments and I'm like, whoa, Why are all these 15-year-olds having documentaries made about them? This is absurd. The camera crews at Peach Jam, you guys, they're out of control. And Tyron's not like that. And so I think just like learning and hearing more about that. And it's very easy, right? We have all known someone who was guarded, and therefore you just make assumptions about them, maybe because they're not super open or they don't come across as warm right away. Um, I don't think that when he walks in the gym, he's giving off a vibe of like, I'm here to be everyone's best friend. And some players are like that. And that's totally fine. He just has a different personality. I also loved when his mom told me that she was an amateur boxer. She took up the sport when she was 14. Actually, if you Google her name, she's been covered before in like local Louisville media. That's where Tyron was born and that's where they lived, about her like boxing journey.
Wow.
So she raised him to be really tough and not complain and just like have this hard outer shell to a degree. And so all those things made sense to me once I asked those questions.
Yeah, in the profile, you document some of the ugly and bad. The fact that he had sort of a weird exit, but from his second school. I mean, he went to 3 different high school programs and essentially got asked to leave his second program.
That's not true. That I did not report that, and that is not accurate.
Okay, I apologize. So what happened then at Mater Dei?
He left by choice.
Got it.
I think it just wasn't a good fit. And to your point of 3 high schools, let's be real. In this era we live in of the transfer portal at every level, that's not unusual for a big time prospect. It's easy to make judgments about it, but other kids also play at various schools.
Yeah, that's very true. But like to me, the most interesting part was the Jamal Crawford deal and the fact that he had this very public outburst spat with him that I think people probably took to mean one thing, and yet the way he wrote about it with Crawford and the way that he felt like that was a turning point for Tyron Stokes to me was really interesting.
Yeah. So first of all, like it's interesting because Jamal Crawford's not the head coach, right? He's the assistant, but he walks in the gym. Everyone knows who he is. Everyone knows who his kid is. His son is just like the spitting image of him. It's insane. And I had not watched that game that Jamal was telling me about, but I went and found it. You can go watch the whole thing on YouTube. On it, it was broadcast on NBA TV. So he told me about how intense it was, and I said, and like, could other people see this? And he's like, oh yeah, this was very public, that they are, because Tyron is super competitive. That's right. And and it's really funny because one thing that I cut out of the story was his teammates at Hoop Summit telling me like, he is the best teammate. He is so positive. He's always lifting us up. And then they were also making sure I knew that he is a lethal trash talker, far and away the best trash talker, not just on that team, but in the 2026 class. So sometimes that can kind of take over. So they're playing in this big showcase, and he gets, over competitive, essentially, like kind of overhyped. He's not playing defense, and Jamal Crawford is not having it. And they start barking at each other across the gym. And it's interesting because the people calling the game are commenting on it too, like, whoa, Jamal Crawford and Tyron Stokes are really mad at each other right now. And Rainier sat him, they pulled him out with about 2 minutes to go in the half. And then they didn't start in the second half. Like they were sending a message. I mean, think about that. Like, this is the best player in the country. And you're like, no, we're not going to play you until you adjust your attitude. And I think like the most telling thing about that was that he responded. When they put him in, he was playing defense. He obviously can score. He leads them to this big win. And Jamal said that afterward, multiple NBA scouts texted him and were like, whoa, we didn't know you could coach him hard. So again, I think it goes back to a lot of people making assumptions. I was guilty of that too, without really getting to know him. At Hoop Summit, I had been at practice every day, and Tyron had hit a couple half-court shots when they were just kind of goofing around, like during water breaks. And then when they were scrimmaging, he missed a free throw. And at one point during the scrimmage, he came over to the baseline where I was sitting to pick up a ball. And I was like giving him a hard time about like, come on, number one player in the country. You can't be like making half court shots and not make a free throw. Like, what's going on? And he laughed and he said something back. We were kind of like bantering back and forth. And these two NBA scouts were sitting to the left of me and they're like, whoa, do you know him really well? And I said, no, I've been around him a little bit, but we're not like friends. And I said, but I've just started to talk to him and I'm a reporter. And one of the scouts kind of muttered to himself, like, I didn't know you could joke with him. So again, I think people are just making a lot of assumptions without actually, I think when you actually talk to him, that you get it and you like him. And I think that you could see that in that video that was going around of him getting to KU and how the other coaches are doing, the bro hug, right? The high five, like that turns into a hug. And Tyron just automatically went to hug Self. Like they clearly have a relationship. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Lindsay, this is fantastic insight. So tell us what stands out about him in terms of on the floor as a player and what he brings to KU's roster.
Oh my gosh, I think that one coach we quoted said it perfectly. Like physically, he's just a fish out of water. I mean, he is so strong. He's like pretty graceful with the ball. It was interesting. I wrote something about when I think the word I used was charges. Initially, I'd written when he barrels down the floor, and I was like, that implies he's out of control. And he's definitely not out of control. He is very in control. It was interesting because when he was up here playing in the Les Schwab Invite, I asked him, he can get into the paint anytime he wants, right? He's so strong, he's so big. And I felt like he was kind of settling for outside shots. That was my read on it. So I asked him about that. Like, do you feel like you're settling? And he said, here's the thing, like, I can get to the paint whenever I want. I need to develop more of an outside game. And he told me straight up, like, he's so open about wanting to get to the league as soon as possible. And he's like, in the NBA, I need to be able to do everything. Guys my size, stay on the perimeter more. So I want to know how to, like, really elevate from there and be able to change the game from the perimeter. I thought that was really insightful. His favorite player is Kevin Durant, but he has been really frank about, like, I don't want to be Kevin Durant. I want to be myself. So I'm really interested to see how they use him, what type of actions they put him in. Again, if you can get him isolated, like, good luck to whoever's defending him. But I think that it will be interesting too, like, he has a college-ready body right now, and he's obviously been training with high-level people forever. But what will it be like when he's on a college lifting program? How much stronger can he get? I think someone made a comment to me, someone from Nike, that you look at him and you like forget that he's only 18. Like he's still growing into his body because he is so big, and obviously very, very fit. So I'm really excited to see what he does, and then also how he continues to push himself and try to be more of a perimeter player. Like he can knock down open threes, there's no question about that. Does he want to add like any more of a mid-range game? That's kind of, archaic at this point in basketball. But I'm curious to see how that works and how he wants to develop that. And again, I just think that Self is going to be able to push him really hard, and that's when you see the best version of him.
Well said. Lindsay Schnell, senior writer for The Athletic. Great stuff. Appreciate your time this morning. And, yeah, this was a really interesting piece, so appreciate you writing it and getting it out there. Great profile.
Yeah, thanks so much, you guys. Happy to chat anytime.
Thanks, Lindsay.
You. Lindsay Schnell joining us, giving us her insight into Tyron Stokes, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and certainly from her vantage point, somebody that kind of went in not liking, and then the more she dug and talked, the more she figured out, how misunderstood he's been.
That's my biggest takeaway. This kid has been very much misunderstood. There's a narrative surrounding him, and Bill Self doesn't care about any of that. Just the little things like the bro hug that she talks about, and with Tyron Stokes, he sees Bill Self and just bear hugs him. Like they have a very special, unique relationship, and Bill Self is not afraid to coach guys hard, and it sounds like Stokes is more open to that than I think others would imply.
You know, I had first heard with Stokes, like, oh, yeah, this is going to be very similar to Peterson. And the more I look at it, the more I think it's the complete opposite.
Total opposite.
Which, quite frankly, is a breath of fresh air. And I think on the heels of Kansas fans having a fatigue with Peterson, like, they're just going to love Stokes. Kansas fans are going to love this dude.
Totally.
James Westling, Ari Tepkin, Big 12 Radio. The final whistle is next. We are presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios.
Quickly under center, and it is Daniels in for a touchdown. Appearance, offset right, in the Kansas backfield. He'll take heat, looking for the edge, and stumbling out of bounds. 7-1 again, you mentioned on third downs. Here was the motion man. Daniels takes a shot downfield, and it's caught. Been through it quite a long time ago. He's here in year 6. Nice catch. Henderson off to the races with a vapor trail behind him. The motions for Kansas. They get a peck it. Daniels at the seam, and it's caught. Touchdown.
Big 12 Radio, Big 12 Today, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios, along with James Westling. I am Ari Tebkin.
Man, your haircut looks good.
Thank you.
You went to Floyd's the other day?
Yeah.
How did it go?
It went well.
Have you ever fallen asleep while getting a haircut?
It's funny you said that. I was actually fairly close. Fairly close, yeah. I don't know what it is. How weird would that be, too?
It happened to me yesterday.
No.
I dozed off.
During the haircut?
During mid-haircut. It was embarrassing.
So what happened?
I woke up.
Like,
no clue how long I had been out.
Scissors in your head, or?
No, they were just buzzing some stuff. They were still, doing that whole thing. So I think the timing couldn't have been better. But in terms of...
You said they. How many people were cutting your hair?
She. One person.
Got it.
So woke up, very confused, very flustered. Didn't know if... I have a deal that I should probably get this checked out. I spasm in my sleep. My wife is always concerned that I'm going to punch her in the face, which has actually happened multiple times.
Wait, what?
Yes, sleep spasms. Should I go to the doctor?
You're telling us on the radio you punch your wife in the face multiple times while you sleep?
It is an accident.
You're blaming it on spasms?
It is an accident. She has seen it. She struggles to fall asleep, so I'm usually asleep hours before she is.
So she leans into the punch, is what you're saying?
No, she's very concerned. She's sleeping on edge every single night, afraid I'm going to punch her between the eyes. I should probably get that checked out. I've looked into it. Muscle spasms. It's a normal thing. So usually when I wake up, I don't just wake up, I jolt. Like a very aggressive jolt. And so I was worried that did I do that during the haircut?
And?
Apparently no. I don't even think they noticed.
They did not notice that you dozed off while getting your haircut?
Yeah, because I think I woke up quick enough.
Do you have any sense of how long you were out?
I don't think very long.
It's funny you say that because I found myself dozing off. Like I had to keep myself awake the last time I had a haircut. I didn't, it's never happened to me before.
Oh, dude, just lean in. It's amazing. Just lean in.
The worst part about that is I then go home and I can't nap. Like, where did that go?
Mm-hmm.
Where did that go? Where'd the sleep go? The sleep was there 5 minutes ago. Like, I could not keep my eyes open. I kept dozing off and then realizing to wake myself up because I don't know why that would be embarrassing to, have the person cutting your hair be like, did you fall asleep while you're...
I can tell you where the sleep went. The sleep went mid-fade. So, they can maneuver your head. They can do all their things. I say just lean in.
Lean in.
Lean into it. You
Okay.
close those eyes.
I do
Let
wonder
it
now.
ride.
I should ask. Have you ever had somebody fall asleep while you're cutting their hair?
I think it's a pretty common thing. At least that's what I like to
It's just
believe.
a relaxing situation.
Yeah. They've got the music going. The thing I love about Floyd's is usually their barbers are not very chatty. They just let you rest and relax. I close my eyes. And sometimes I'll even give them a heads up. Hey, I'm going to close my eyes.
I like that. I'm not ignoring you. I just don't want you to talk to me or me to talk to you.
That, exactly. It's a very polite way to say, let's keep the conversation non-existent. I'm going to close my eyes and take a little rest here.
Can I tell you that it's the number one reason I like to go to Floyd's?
What?
The lack of conversation.
Yeah.
I find it very appealing. And it's interesting because there are some obviously barbershops where conversation is rules the roost. And I've taken my kids to a couple of places where it's it's a group of people and some are customers and they're all employees and everybody's talking and there's a big conversation. But I just don't want any part of that. I just want to be in, out, get my hair cut, get the hair washed, and get out.
That's it?
Yeah.
I don't need a bunch of overstimulating activity while I'm getting a haircut.
No.
It should be therapeutic. It should be relaxing. That's exactly what this place is.
When it feels like there are a lot of places you go to and they're like, well, I have to talk. They feel it. I almost want to be like, don't worry. I'm all set in terms of, it's always what do you do for work? I always keep it broad too. I do a lot of things.
I do a lot of
There's
things.
a lot of things. What don't I do for work? Are you off today? No, I'm not off today.
That's the number one question I get because we're always going midday, right?
You off today?
You off today? No, people work different hours. Back off me, bro. Okay? But I'm with you. I feel like the comment that, now I have glasses, so I can use that as an excuse. I have to set my glasses aside. And so I can say, well, I can't really see very well what you're doing, so I'm just going to close my eyes and take a little nap. Good luck out there. I'm sure it'll be fine. I trust you.
Do you do the shampoo, post-shampoo?
No.
Yeah, of course you don't.
Time for that.
I mean, first of all, it's very relaxing. Second of all, I just don't like the loose hairs. Like, I have to get those loose hairs out. Otherwise, it's itchy. It falls into the back of your shirt. I hate it.
So you do go with the shampoo.
Got to.
Is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless I'm in a huge hurry, you've got to.
Did you get the shave? Like, they'll lather up the neck.
Oh, yeah.
line. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. One time they gave me a massage. They had a massage gun. Massaged my back. I was out like a light.
Not a fan of those.
No?
No, because it just feels like it doesn't feel like a massage. The massage guns to me, it just feels like plastic pressing on the back of your back. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
Sort of a weirdo like that.
And you can put it in the middle of your back and then talk like a robot. That's really exciting. That's a fun activity. It completely changes your vocal cords in your voice box. Sounds straight up AI generated.
Do you have one? We should bring it in and test it out.
Yeah, we do. I'll bring it tomorrow.
Bring it tomorrow.
Final whistle's done tomorrow. In fact, I'm going to write that down. Bring massage gun.
So we can hear how funny and robotic we all sound.
On a Friday. Yeah.
On a
Will, what's
fast-
your haircut experience like?
I'm the opposite. I think I'm just staring into the mirror, making sure they're getting it right. So definitely not going to sleep like y'all.
Nothing surprises me less than you overanalyzing the haircut.
Right, as if you know what they're doing.
Well, then I'm like, they'll
that a
ask
two?
me too.
That fade needs to, let's ratchet that up.
Well, do they ever show you the mirror and they're like, is this okay? And you're
Yeah.
like, and then you negotiate like, no, I need this or that.
Oh, no, see, they do the beard. I'm like, yeah, sure, looks good to me. Like, I don't know.
No, I'm always saying.
I'm always like, how does it look to you?
Okay.
That is a good point.
They are the
Their
professionals,
opinion.
but I do think they're asking because they want you to leave satisfied. So I think
100%.
if you're not satisfied, it's perfectly
Yeah,
acceptable.
but I don't know what to be like. It's straight. It looks like they got the hair. Like, what else? I don't know. I don't have like a 5-point criteria. You know, like I don't know. Sure.
Does
Yeah.
the same person cut your hair every time so they kind of know what you want? Because I have that now where I walk in, oh, you're getting the usual. Or if it's been a while, oh, remind me, you know.
That's the moneymaker. If you
Yeah.
can find a consistent barber, which I used to have. Remember, he texted me a couple of weeks ago and said he was watching the show, and maybe he was. Shout out Richard. Great guy, but he moved. He moved, and it's too far of a drive.
So you're a free agent now.
I'm a free agent. Yeah, I've had a different rotation. But, yeah, it's a whole experience, man. I'm here for it. Fell asleep. I was a little bit embarrassed, and then I thought, no, I think this is okay.
This is the life now.
I think this is all
It's
right.
actually a great spot to get a nap.
Nobody seems surprised. Have I been out for 2 minutes or 3 hours? I don't know.
Is it weird that I don't notice that you got a haircut?
Oh, no, that's not weird.
Why?
No, that's not weird. My wife doesn't even notice.
Okay.
Because I keep it clean, bro.
But you're always noticing when I get a haircut.
Yeah.
And then I feel bad that I never notice that anybody gets haircuts. I don't know what that is, but for some, like my wife especially, she'll be like, "Oh, how does it look?" And I'm like, "What'd you do?"
Yeah, I think it's just a lack of intelligence and general self-awareness is what I would identify as the problem there.
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with hair. It's just the tip of the iceberg.
No, that's fair. Yeah, I did notice because, I mean, you had it a little bit longer and you went super short, and I picked up on it right away. Mine just looks the same all the time.
All the time.
All the time.
You wake up and you've got that Hershey kiss in the front.
You know it, dude. Now, I did tell them to tackle that, so we'll have to do a check-in on that a little bit later on.
What do you mean?
Well, I said we need to go a little shorter over here. It's doing some weird stuff. We wake up very early in the morning. I'm not combing my hair.
Some weird
5 a.m.
Thing's got a life of its own.
Wake up and let it roll.
How's your baldness going?
I would say quite well.
Good.
Yeah, how about you?
Very.
Is that a concern?
No. But I feel like we're at the age right now where it's like, this could be.
Oh, I got a ton of bald friends.
This could be a thing.
I mean, it's already hitting me.
Is it?
Oh, yeah, I have a huge bald spot going.
No,
Do
way.
you?
Turn
I
around.
won't have hair in years.
Oh yeah.
A little
Yeah.
bit. Yeah, you're thinning a little bit. Good news, Will,
Yeah.
is there's so much.
Bring it home, Will.
They're making.
Just go totally bald.
But getting in that chair is therapeutic, so I want to keep getting the cuts. But
I say you're
I
a
might
year.
just go bald.
You're
soon.
a year or
Couple
two away
years.
from going.
Yeah.
That's my play. When it starts to go, it's all going.
You're gonna shave it off.
Yeah, I mean, there's like studies that have been done that show that like men that are completely bald, they're more attractive, they're more trustworthy than the balding men, regardless of whether or not they are attractive and or successful.
Yeah, it's a power play.
Yeah.
Major power play, but you've got to keep it clean. I've got a weird shaped head. I could never do it.
What's weird about it?
I've just got a bunch of divots in various places.
Divots?
Egg-shaped.
What did God be like?
yeah.
Oh no! Oh, another one. Let's take a mulligan on that shot. I got left a huge divot in this guy's head.
Doing some acrobatics at a very young age. There were some spills.
It's from punching in the sleep.
Got all kinds of weird stuff going on up
Yeah,
there.
seriously, what does your wife do when you punch her in her sleep?
Apparently, she's punching back right here in the middle of my head where I've got this giant divot. Hole 7.
I always knew there was something wrong with your brain.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So, well, your hair looks great. I had a very pleasant experience, but I just wanted to see if you've ever fallen asleep and if it was okay.
No and yes. No and no. I'll tell you the one place that I have fallen asleep, and I do think they were making fun of me, was the dentist.
What?
Weird one, huh?
People fall asleep all the time at the dentist.
Okay. I mean, but it's also weird because they're like in your mouth doing things that could be painful. So it feels like that would be enough to keep you up. But I dozed off multiple times.
Man, I hate the dentist.
And I did one of those things, too, where you don't know if they noticed. And they 100% know. She's like, oh, yeah. No. Yeah. I mean, she even cracked the joke. Like, oh, you're back.
How long were you out?
How long was I out? She's like, a pretty good amount of time.
That's amazing.
Not like 5 minutes.
Yeah, no, they've got the whole thing. They can prop that baby open. That's nap time, dude. You gotta pick your spots.
Peak nap time. They're messing with your mouth. It's just the best time to be napping.
Peak nap time. In dentists and in barbers we trust, we're out.
What's the weirdest place you've ever fallen asleep?
No, I think the barber's probably up there.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I don't know. I'd have to think about it. Much like when you attacked me yesterday and said I've never emceed an event in my life, and I couldn't think of what it was in the 15-second window that I had.
You came back with
Lose
receipts.
sleep over that. Boy, did I ever.
Extremely impressive. You weren't asked to come back, but you did it.
Exactly.
The Fellowship of Christian Athletes.
Yeah, no, major. They actually did ask me to come back the next year, okay? Putting my defensive Dan pants on, they did ask me to come back. We had a lovely.
You have not defended yourself over most of the things I've made fun of you for.
But this
many
one,
of them way worse than
Fellowship
this.
of Christian Athletes, they wanted me back.
Like, there are way worse things I've called you and said about you that you have not even gotten close to defending.
Whatever.
But this one,
But this, my
you will
MC
not let it
skills,
go.
No, I'm not self-conscious about that at all.
All right, thank you as always to our great producers, Anthony Smith with Big 12 Studios, Will Connerly filling in today for Taman Turner. Thanks to James Wesley. I'm Ari Tepkin. We're back tomorrow. Of course, don't forget that we've got more programming on the way. 1 o'clock Central, 2 o'clock Eastern time. You can catch the top 5 newcomers along the offensive line in Big 12 football and hear our interview of the day. That's all later on today, but we're back tomorrow. For now, we're out. Peace.